Hey. Live on Facebook. 𝗓𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗱𝗁𝗱𝗏. Ayuda. Manerakanaka vana veZimbabwe. Dot maswera sick matimana enyika. Let me come to you tonight with a very unique topic that we want to discuss tonight. You are all free to contribute here, but I just want to understand how other Zimbabweans think and reason. We know we are Zimbabweans. I am Zimbabwean. You are Zimbabwean, and a lot of people are Zimbabweans here. We are not English-speaking people. No. English is an adopted word, adopted English. We all grew up speaking different languages in Zimbabwe. When they were speaking Shona, when we were speaking Kalanga, whatever, 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗏𝗁, Chimanyika, Atetekon, how are you? So someone is complaining about my presentation, saying, oh, your English is very bad. Let me guess that someone is not in the United Kingdom. He was complaining on YouTube that my English is so bad. And this person, he said he or she lives in America. And he complained about my English, saying it's so bad. Let me do 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 and Sanataura. Regai nboshaura nane mwaka sikashaure 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏. Ona 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 iro vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 iro vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏 vakomana vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏 musatambe navo vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 vakomana 𝗓𝗏 rembanje iro 𝗓𝗏 iro vanogara 𝗓𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏 vakomana vanogara 𝗓𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏 usatambe navo vanogara 𝗓𝗏 rembanje vanogara 𝗓𝗏 vakomana 𝗓𝗏 rembanje. Ndanakirwa unonzwa izwa kutapirirwa naye. Hanzi mukoma makadii ndinofara munashe zviri kufamba here. Ndasvikira 𝗓𝗏 wadhumana naro mwana wamai. I want to talk about someone who is complaining on YouTube that your English is really bad. Why can't you only use Shona? Unfortunately, Shona is my adopted language. English is my adopted language. I'm not Shona speaking person. I speak Shona, but I'm not Shona speaking person. English, I'm not English speaking as well. It is just an adopted language, which we adopted. All of us adopted English language when we zvirufamba here pi ngudifungisa musango wagaya paya asi ndikabaya 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 unongoona zvafanira kuti munhu akasvika pane vanhu vangoungana kuti cha unoona munhu achinge otoziva kuti uyo bata andiona saka akaona tarowa 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 varidzi vazvo vanotoziva kuti chabhondoka pano takutopinda muzira andindiona. Anyway, it's good to see you P. How are you? So I'm talking about someone who's complaining about my English language, saying it is really, really bad. Unfortunately, I can't change it because I'm not English speaking person. This is an adopted language. At least I'm making efforts to present, to make 3 hours speaking English. Otherwise, that person can hardly spend 3 hours speaking in English. But I am quick. I am spending about 3 hours speaking in English, so people can hear my English language. Just a quick one. What does it mean if you say Vanogaram 𝗓𝗏𝗧? What is 𝗓𝗏𝗧? 𝗓𝗏𝗧 bound. Bound jembanje. You know ban where you put 𝗏𝗧 imomo, it's a 𝗓𝗏𝗧. Ndochi 𝗓𝗏𝗧, a ban where you put 𝗏𝗧. If you so then if you saw like those people who do tobacco, eventually they take that tobacco, put it in a ban. That is 𝗓𝗏𝗧. 𝗓𝗏𝗧 rembanje. That is a 𝗓𝗏𝗧 rembanje. So there are 𝗓𝗏𝗧s re ban re tobacco. Then pane 𝗓𝗏𝗧 remarombe. Ukaenda kuZimbabwe, ukaenda kuJongwe house, 𝗓𝗏𝗧 remarombe. Saka that's what it means. 𝗓𝗏𝗧. It's a ban rinoiswa mbanje. Or it's a ban rinoiswa marombe. I'm good triple. Mugango munyika medu. Inenge tripod yakadzvanya mwana wamai. So I was talking about introducing this presentation by talking about someone who was complaining that I speak very bad English. I speak very, very bad English. Mainunu, how are you? Mkoma man. Zurufamba. Someone is complaining on on YouTube that I speak very, very bad English. So I was saying, look, my friend, I came to the UK 2008, but I did not learn this language in 2008. I grew up speaking Shona. When I started going to school, this is when I started learning what English is like. Since grade 1, I've got over 30 or 40 years learning this language. So by now, I think I'm speaking very fluent English by now. Because everywhere I live, I don't live with the black people here. I don't live with the Zimbabweans. I live with the British people. My neighbors, all of my neighbors are British. They speak English. They don't speak my language. So every time when I get out there or go out, I speak to them in English. They understand me. Even if I go to school, all my degrees were done in the United Kingdom at 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗏𝗏 University. I never did a degree in Shona. No. They were all done in English. All my reading was done in English, not in any other language. It's English. All my readings done in English. All my homework, all my assignments, assessments, everything. The people who assessed me were British. Who are the owners of this language we speak? English people from England. They are the owners of this language that we speak. And they were the people who assessed me to say, oh, you have qualified. Even if I go for driving tests, I speak to the examiner in English. He gives me instructions in English. I understand the examiner. He understands my English. So it's queer or taboo for a Zimbabwean, someone who is not English speaking, to complain that I speak so badly. I don't know if he has been to the United Kingdom to hear the English people speaking their language. It's like Shona people. We have got Shona people who speak badly. It's like Chiangwa. General Constantino what is Chiangwa or Chiwengwa? That one can't speak even Shona. Can't speak even English. Long time. General Zurufamba. Chiwenga can't speak even Shona. Can't speak even English. I know we've got people who speak Shona badly. People who speak English badly. People who speak both languages badly. But the purpose of this language is to make communication easy. If you can hear what I'm saying, then that's it. Don't worry about my past tense, present tense, future tense, whatever tenses you think about. And in or in. Do you know it's very difficult for a non-English speaking person to say, I was standing on a bus or in a bus. Those prepositions, they make life very hard for a non-English speaking person to say in or on. If I ask people here, could you say in a bus or on a bus? You see, prepositions, they make English very difficult for anyone. Rebara can't speak this language. At least I speak to English speaking people on daily basis. I went to university here. I made my presentations in English. I was speaking in front of lecturers. My lecturers, most of my lecturers are professors, doctors who taught me in university. You see, I was taught by a very good example, Dr. 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗶𝗶, who taught me forensic science. I was taught by Dr. Helen Tide. I was taught by Professor Tim. Professor but professor in their lives. But I was lucky to be taught by those people, professors, doctors. Every time when I stand in front of them making presentations, they will be marking my English. They will be marking. Because when you are being marked or being assessed on an assessment, they assess your English language as well. Masamba, Leonard, Chimandu changu So what I'm saying is, if you went to university in England, all your assessment were done in English language, and if those professors were assessing your English as well, they assess your writing skills, they assess your research skills, they assess various things when they say you have passed, you have passed. That's all I want. If I've passed, I passed, and everything that I did was done in English. For the past 12 years, I was in classroom studying and reading in English, making presentations in English. Ngoma Mazimba 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗶𝗃, how are you? So anyway, that is not the topic of tonight. Tonight I'm going to talk about a presidential candidate. You know, we are approaching a very fun period. We are approaching a very funny period. Election time. We see dubious characters throwing their head into the ring saying, I want to be a presidential candidate. We see them, the likes of Vanalinda Masarira. We see them coming to say they want to be presidential candidates. President Waboga, you know, if you have got a danda head as a president, people think with office in Abasai. Lee, 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗶𝗃 Mngomali. Because, you know, everybody's looking at Emmerson Mnangagwa's performance, looking at his English skills, his Shona skills, his communication skills, his interaction skills. You know, if you look at that person, you think, any Jack and Jew can be a president in a country. People don't understand that politics, being a president of a country is the most important position one can occupy. Because I was listening to this guy who was talking about being an engineer, being a doctor, being a president. He was saying being an engineer is very, very important, because you are going to design a building. If that building collapses, it affects a lot of people. Probably about 1,000 people who will be inside that building. They all perish. He was talking about being a doctor. If a doctor makes a mistake, that means one person or two people are affected by a doctor's mistake. But decisions made by a politician are very crucial. Once a politician make a wrong decision, that decision will affect probably will affect millions of people. And with the president, I know the fact that he or she commented that means the message was delivered home. Thank you, Adedeson, and thank you so much. So you see what I'm saying here, that we need a presidential material or a presidential candidate and animal characteristics or qualities that suit a president. We don't just need every Jack and Jew to throw his head into the ring and say, I want to be president. Even if you look at him, but honestly, this guy thinks he can be a president. A president is not just a walk in the park. It is a job that requires a lot of skills, because you are going to assist in making decisions that will affect millions of people's lives. In Zimbabwe, you'll be affecting about 15 million people. I'm going to talk about best decisions which were made by some presidents, especially Robert Mugabe, which saw Zimbabwe now struggling economically, people suffering, people dying from lack of medication, people dying from lack of education. You know, if you lack education, it's a disease that can lead you to death. You understand? A lot of people die because of ignorance. Hanging himself. That's lack of education. That's ignorance. Someone hanging himself, it's ignorance, honestly. Because obvious, you know, if you die, you die. You'll never return to this world. That's the end of you. So why hanging yourself? Your death shall come. Your time shall come. Don't worry about hanging yourself. You understand? Because you lack education, you've got too much ignorance that result in you committing suicide. So I've been looking at a number of presidential aspirants who think can run Zimbabwe. One of them is none other than 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗁. When I say this a word or this name 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗁, I know every Zimbabwean who was in Zimbabwe between 2000 and 2020 and 2017, your heart will miss a bit. I know. You will start looking behind whether you are not being followed. When I say 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗁, people start looking back to see if no one is following me. Because this guy, he caused a lot of suffering to the people of Zimbabwe. So I'm going to talk about this gentleman tonight. Those who can assist in things that they know about the gentleman, please, you are welcome to do so. I don't think he is one person where Zimbabweans would be convinced to vote as president. Honestly, I am telling you, he must not waste his money. He must not waste his time to say he wants to contest as a president or to contest in 2023 presidential race. He mustn't waste his time like that. As Mukoma, akaperera hapana chekushora. He qualifies to be. Mukoma, if you look at President Chamisa, we're going to not. Yeah, this is the type of president we want. I can't speak good English like President Chamisa. I wish I could, but I can't. He has got all the qualities that every person wants, but we can't get them all. He is a talented gentleman. So I'm going to talk about 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗁 tonight. But this guy fell from glory in 2017. We all understand. He fell from glory in 2017, and he's frantically trying to come back into politics, into political hibernation under a banner known as Tyson Wabantu. Tyson Wabantu movement. It's another movement in ZANU-PF. We all understand the G40 movement that comprises of Vana Mzembi is controversial, but Vana Jonathan Moyo and Nevamo Gadaro Vana Grace Mugabe and so forth. So he's trying to come back from his political hibernation through this banner he calls Tyson Wabandu. So this Tyson Wabandu is someone not new to the people of Zimbabwe. There are quite a number of reasons why I don't think this gentleman qualifies to be a presidential candidate. First of all, he is allergic to development. He is one person that I've seen allergic to development. He doesn't like to see Zimbabwe developing. He doesn't like to see anyone developing. This gentleman, why? I've been looking for some information about this gentleman so that I present to you proper information that if he tries to challenge the information that I'm going to say tonight, it is actual facts that I've put down. 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗁 split the vote is ZANU-PF. I don't think he wants to split ZANU-PF vote, but he thinks ZANU-PF likes him. He thinks ZANU-PF doesn't like Emmerson Mnangagwa because Mnangagwa is not a ZANU-PF fanatic, but is someone that was imposed on ZANU-PF by the military. So he thinks himself Kasukwerè is the bona fide president of this political party or first secretary of ZANU-PF, but he has been nudged out of it by the military. So he thinks if he comes back, Tyson Wabandu, then those people who are ZANU-PF people or die-hard ZANU-PF will vote for him as their president. So he thinks he will win against Emmerson Mnangagwa and he becomes president of Zimbabwe on ZANU-PF ticket because he is pro-ZANU-PF. And obvious, when he comes to stand as president, as a presidential candidate in this election, he will come on ZANU-PF ticket. This is the gentleman we know as 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗁 Kasukwerè. In 1999, this guy was elected youth chairman of Mashonaland Central. That time, he was around 29 years old in 1999. He was around 29. He was very young, 29 years old. He was elected as youth chairman of Mashonaland Central. He was also, he had already been recruited in the Central Intelligence Organization. He was member of the CIO. I don't know how he rose in the CIO. Yeah, zvakawanda ngoma chichi ndadzwana vazhinji vachikochema vaiti iyo imhondiyo havatoda kumuona padhuze. Saka he was a Central Intelligence Organization operative and he rose there. You know that spooky organization or that intelligence agents of ours, it comprises of different departments, administration, internal security, and external division, what. But I think, I'm not sure which division he was based in the CIO, but he rose quickly. Because at 29, he had already made an impact in politics from that department, Central Intelligence Organization. He also had made large strides in business, opening my business. Kasukwerè ndonzi a businessman in Zimbabwe. At 29, he was already angatofamba atoita mari handeti rakazobuda here remavhotsi rema-elections here bongi because ma-elections ari kuva musi wa-23 August general elections. So in 1999 I'm repeating, 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 was elected youth chairman of Mashonaland Central. In 2000, remember in 2000 when we went into an election in June 2000. In 2000 he was elected as Deputy Secretary for Youth Affairs, 𝗗𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 how this guy rose in ZANU-PF. From being youth chairman of Mashonaland Central, he was incorporated or elected into ZANU-PF's Politburo as Deputy Secretary for Youth Affairs. Right? This is when he was also elected in 2000. He was elected as a member of parliament for Mount Darwin South in 2000. He served, for 2000, he served my different parliamentary portfolios, my committees. One of these committees he chaired Committee on Defense and Home Affairs, Parliament. He was very young, I think at the age of 30 that time. In 2005, he was re-elected again as member of parliament for Mount Darwin South. Mount Darwin South in 2005. This is when he was appointed as Deputy Minister of Youth Development and Employment Creation. That was in 2005. So between 2005 and 2009, he served as Deputy Minister of Youth Development and Employment Creation. This is a rough idea and some different because he led RIP. I'm not sure about it. I'll see that. Let's concentrate much on this candidate. We want to see this 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗃 who has just thrown his head into the presidential race. He was born in 1970. Mukuru kwandiri negore. Just 1 year. 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 is older than me negore. He was born around October 1970. So by 2000, he had risen into very influential position in politics, starting in 1999 when he was elected youth chairman of Mashonaland Central. The following year, he was elected into Zimbabwe, into ZANU-PF Politburo as Deputy Secretary for Youth. By 2005, just 5 years down the line, he was now Deputy Minister for Youth Development and Creation, Employment Creation. So he served in that portfolio between 2005 and 2009. From 2009, he was Zimbabwe Minister of Youth Development, Indigenization and Empowerment. Akabva Minister from 2009 to 2013. 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 will not be allowed in the country because of his case, which is in the court. No, because vanogona kumsunga, but he will be released. He won't spend time, I'm telling you. Nobody likes ZANU Mnangagwa. Hadiwi mZANU. Anodiwa in the military. Saka, I see him coming. Believe me, he is coming. So in 2013, from pakazotwa my elections at 2013 aya, ZANU-PF vichiwina. Muna 2015 akabva Minister of Local Government, Public Works and National Housing and Rural Development. That is a position he held kusvika azotiza in 2017. So looking at that background from 1999 to 2017 kusvika Kasukwere atiza, the gentleman proved that is allergic to development. We talk of actual development in the country, considering that he was Deputy Minister of Youth and Development, Employment Creation. He became Minister of Minister of Food. I still remember was the empowerment, something the empowerment, the economy chichi. I can't remember that kutranga rigoreripi, but vanogona uziva mugona kutibatsira. So looking at that, Kasukwere, when he took over constituency Mount Darun South, it was a constituency which was run by James Makamba. Mdara Munotsuka FSA Black Jimmy, Mdara Jimmy, James Makamba. So Kasukwere, he first became a legislator for Mount Darun South in 2000, and he has nothing meaningful to show for his presence in that constituency. You go there, Mount Darun South, go and see for yourself that it is a constituency that was held by ZANU-PF, a ruling party, from 2000. If you go there, Kasukwere has nothing to show for his presence in that constituency. He spent 7 years there, I think not 7 years only. 2 terms, which is 10 years. And the 3rd term, which is about 15 years. So let's roughly say, safely say, he spent 7 years there. And the people of Mount Darun South, Makorikore, they were entrusting him to spearhead developmental activities. However, during or under his stewardship, the constituents, the Mount Darun South constituents, it deteriorated further than being developed. Understand? A very good example, how this constituents deteriorated. There is Mount Darun, vakambofamba ne Mount Darun Chibondo Road. Have you ever been there? If you don't know I've been there in Mount Darun. I've been in a lot of places, guys, in Zimbabwe. But politics zakandonisa zvakawanda. If you go to Mount Darun Chibondo Road today, that road was tarred. Kudhara yainzi 𝗀𝗱𝗏𝗀𝗏 Road. It was known as 𝗀𝗱𝗏𝗀𝗏 Road. But isusu tunoiti Mount Darun Chibondo Road. Ndo road yaine tara yekuti waiti kana uchifambamo wanyanzwa kuti I'm driving. Yanga mukapeti. Yanga ne road yakatsetsa carpet, waifamba mukapeti. 𝗀𝗱𝗏𝗀𝗏 Road mem. But since Kasukwere took over that constituency from James Makamba, you don't like that road. He turned it out, he turned it into a dirty potholed road. Izvo zvukaenda vakambofamba enda unoifamba nhasi. You can tell what I'm telling you. Kuti zvayakasiyiwa yakaita na Tyson. This gentleman you call Tyson. Endai munoiona Mount Darun Chibondo Road zvayakaita. Yaive road yekuti yainakidza kufamba nemabhazi. Go there and okwangu. Thanks Mkoma Amosgura. You feel shame if you go there. That he took that constituency with that road. Yangakada waitanga uri kuEngland uchidrive 𝗀𝗱𝗏𝗀𝗏 Road. Waitanga uri kuEngland uchienda kuChibondo. But go there today and see for yourself. Yangove dust road. Yangove potholed road. That is 𝗍𝗱 Kasukwere for you. This is the gentleman who is coming to you today and say, look, I want to be president of Zimbabwe. Even in ZANU-PF, kana vanomuvhotera vachiti ndowe ZANU, another president we ZANU-PF. You need to think twice, guys. I'm just looking at his presidential aspiration. Haichafambiki You can't drive in that road anymore. You can't. Because kudu manye, mweme kana ne bus, kana ne tractor chacha ashatoiti muchibondo. Mweme maifamba mabenz. Maita kuchedza so. Sekuru jiko zvirize. Maita kuchedza. No road yainakidza udriver. Mount Daru ni chibondo road ya. From Mount Daru nochenda chibondo. That road yainakidza kudrive. But go there today and witness for yourself what I'm talking about. I'm kutaura zvandisingazivi. Anotaura road yandisina kumbofamba. Kutaura road yandakambofamba. Go there and see. This gentleman you call Mike Tyson. Mount Darwin. Inini ndiri mukore. I've been kunana Mount Darwin Rushinga ndakasvika mukumbura kwese ndokuziva dotito kwese hakuna kwanisingazive kwese. I know that area yese Mount Darwin yana. Ndakasvikapo. If you go there Mount Darwin vanhu vanoziva hakuna kana building in constituency ya Tyson. Hakuna kana development yakaitwa. Hamuna kana building, even government building chayakatombovakwa kuti unotosvika uchitoti pano pakavakwa building yakanaka, a public building. Hapana. Pane building yakambotira kuda kuvakwa Mount Darwin iri opposite Mount Darwin Sports Club. Ukaenda handizve kana yakazopera because kuma 2008 yakangori foundation, yakangosiwa iri pa foundation level. I'm not sure if this building was completed. I'm not sure if anyone who knows about this building I'm talking about. It is just next to the sports club Mount Darwin here. Pane building yaida kuvakwa. It was a very big building. Yainzi ichange ine ma-upstairs, ichange ine chi building here. Yangosiwa yakadaro. I think kuma 2008 pandakapesana na Mount Darwin it was like that. Ndangona pakangodaro. I'm not sure whether yakazovakwa ikapera building here. I'm not sure whether that building was completed. So this guy you are talking about, Anonzi 𝗍𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶, he's just a very good gentleman in like hijacking other people's projects. He claims ownership. A very good example. Ukaenda ukandeya secondary school. Vanoziva ukandeya secondary school. Pane block rakavakwa ipapo apo. Ukandeya muward 23. Pakavakwa block rechikoro ipapo. Kasikuera akasvika akati zita rake ngariiswe pa block ipapo on that new block. And this block rakavakwa 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶 Foundation. Ndo vakavaka block iro. Vanhu vakaprovide labor yakavaka block iroro. Local people vanhu vaimukira vachiendako vaipanana zvijana, vanhu vachiti zvidhina, tuta zvidhina, vachienda vachichera foundation vachiita sei, because this block rakavakwa 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶 Foundation. Surprisingly parakapera takaona pakuswa zita raSevious Kasikuere. How did he come to be there? You understand? Ukaenda pakandeya secondary school, quite a lot of things that you wonder what happened. He's the guy another president way, and tinotaura another president way. Kasikuere munhu anozikanwa nema false promises. The guy is just someone anonakirwa nekuluta. Akangoda kufanana nezvafana zvikuru chaunganidza vanhu kumabvuku 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶 𝗍𝗶𝗃𝗍𝗃 nakasikuera vakada kufanana. Both are slow learners. Chinonzi ani chimupana 𝗍𝗶𝗃𝗍 ichi chekumabvuku chisakupwanya cheche. It's a very slow learner. Hanzi akatosi is a grade 7 dropout. Grade 7 dropout. Zvafanana Kasikuera. Kasikuera adza kuBradley, I think kuBradley Mission ndoko akadzidzawo. He's a very slow learner, this gentleman. Very slow learner. Good with everything that he did, even if he sit down, looks back at what he did in Mount Darwin South. This is when he should start considering himself. Can I be president of Zimbabwe? Because I think he's worse than Mnangagwa. Kasikuere is less than Mnangagwa or less than Chiwenga himself. 𝗍𝗱𝗃𝗍𝗃 of Zanu hijacking and telling lies, nothing expect from them. Definitely, Emadawa, there is nothing to expect from these people. This is why I'm trying to look at Kasikuere tonight, so that people can make a very good decision. because tine vamwe vedu already vari opposition vari kutomhanya vachiti Tyson wabantu. Those people vatakasiya ku-MDC tichienda ku-𝗏𝗏𝐶, they are now seeing no hope in Douglas Monzora, and these guys are now running for Tyson wabantu. I'm telling them that you guys were not opposition, definitely. If you were opposition, honestly, when we left you in MDC, by now you should be seeing reality. No, Dara Monzoro is not opposition. This is ZANU-PF project. You should come to where others are. Instead, makumanyana Tyson wabantu patunyatsona kuti vana vamazanu vazanu vakumanyana Tyson wabantu. So looking at constituency at Mount Darun South, you find that this guy is just he used to lie a lot, promising people things that he will never make, fake promises to the people of Zimbabwe. And considering that he is coming from a ruling party, a party that has got capacity, that has got all resources and capacity to develop a constituency, being a ZANU-PF member of parliament and also a minister, he failed to develop Mount Darun South. You understand? At one time, he promised, I remember this. That was in 2005 elections, when he came to Mount Darun South. He was promising to build dams in this constituency. Mnozvan Mount Darun inyika isina madhamu akawanda, kuri dry kunana Mount Darun, kunopisa kuri dry. Saka kwatona mune karwizi kanotoererawo munenge mutoti kakatochipura. So instead, Mount Darun inzvimbo yaifanirwa kuonekwa ichivakwa mareservoir, madams akawanda kuhanesa mvura painonaya paya kuti vanhu vaite irrigation. He came there, I remember, in 2005 when he promised to build or construct more dams in that constituency to promote irrigation activities. But until he was dethroned or removed in 2017, nothing was done. My promises, akangofira my promises. No dam was built in Mount Darun South. Nothing. And on. The only notable thing he constructed in his entire political career, if you go kumshakwavo kumatope homestead, kumshakwana 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗏𝗁𝗍 kumatope homestead, kune makuva akatange kuHiroZeka. It's like a paradise. This is probably one thing that he managed to construct in Mount Darun South in his entire political life. And I saw a post of Dexter Nduna Gering. You don't follow Zim politics for sure. And more. So, if you go kumatope homestead, the thing that can catch glimpse of your eye are the graves. Aiwa makuwa kumushere kumshapao akavaka makuwa first class makuwa wenda kepa HiroZeka pamakuwa ekumshakwana 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗏𝗁𝗍 ndochinja akakwanisa kuvakira vanhu in his entire life as a politician. This is why the guy who thinks can spearhead the development of the whole nation, when he failed to develop a single constituency, he's coming to you Zimbabweans and telling you that he wants to develop Zimbabwe. He was given a very small, that constituency is probably one of the smallest constituencies in the country. He failed to develop it. And he is now coming 23 years later to say he wants to develop Zimbabwe. He wants to be president of Zimbabwe. When he failed as a member of parliament, when he failed as a minister, deputy minister, he failed dismally. And he's coming to that he wants to build Zimbabwe. This is why I'm asking you guys, could honestly this gentleman who failed to develop a single constituency, kana dhamu zvaro kana rodhi zvayo hakuna chiriko Mount Arun South. Chiriko Makuwa pamba papo matope homestead chero ndo chete chiripo. Zvimwe zvese hakuna chiriko chekuti ungatofamba kuti ZANU-PF ndo iri kutonga. Ndoshamisika kunzwa ZANU-PF ichichema ichipopota kuti Marara Muharare Harare yazoita sei. Vana kasikwere vakaita local government minister development ichi adirikono daya paripo paakatotsvaga kuti mari inodevelopa kumusha kwake. He never did that. And so for you to trust 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere to say he's going to develop Zimbabwe, iye akafera kudevelopa a single constituency. Kasi Mount Arun South constituency kadiki paakatora kubva na James Makamba, he failed to develop that seat, then because that constituency, that he is coming to you telling you that he is going to develop Zimbabwe. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, I am saying, if you are a true Zimbabwean, you must continue to show this gentleman Anonzi 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere a middle finger. You remember when Mnangagwa was addressing ZANU-PF people, saying, even kana mukavhotera MDC zvichemo zvavo hakuna kwazvinoenda. It was 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere who wrote the speech. He was seated next to Mnangagwa achitaura achiombera iti ngwena sharing a sabotaging the cities, our cities. Zimbabwe is our capital, Harare is our capital seat, and Mnangagwa was sabotaging a capital seat, an administrative seat of a country, and Kasikwere was busy clapping hands. Ngwena was sabotaging Harare City Council, or Harare as a seat, the administrative seat of a country. And what? Because the capital seat of a country reflects what type of people you are. Ndosaka uchiti ukapinda London, it reflects England, it reflects United Kingdom. Ukaenda ku Moscow reflects Russia. Ukaenda ku Lusaka reflects Zambia. Joburg or Durban reflects South Africa. So those cities must be well built, kept clean, and so forth. Instead, ministers and the president of a country were very busy sabotaging the cities. As a capital city, Dodrega, amfambike Harare, nungofamba wakabata muno because of 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere. Unofamba wakabata muno because of Emmerson Mnangagwa. These two guys, they sabotaged the cities. I'm going to tell you, he tried to sabotage Bulawayo city as well. He sabotaged the Gweru city as well. This 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere. Then is the gentleman coming to you and they say, guys, I want to be president of Zimbabwe. So we are looking back. You want to be president of Zimbabwe. You have been an MP, you have been a minister. So we are looking back at what you did when you were an MP, when you were a minister. What did you do for the country? What did you do for your constituents where you grew up? Understand? So if you did nothing to Mount Arun where you grew up, just built your relatives' graves, you did nothing there, then you want to tell us that you want to develop Zimbabwe. You know, 𝗍𝗲𝗃 Kasikwere is not that kind of presidential candidate Zimbabweans would cheer, even when he walks down the street. People will pelt him with eggs, I am telling you. So if Kasikwere was only anti-development, but good in other aspects, Zimbabweans must have tempted to associate with him. But the guy is nepotistic. Ane nepotism inotyisa murume uyo. Nepotism yake inotyisa. This is reason number 2. Reason number 1, I said, is allergic to development. I've told you, go there and see Mount Arun Shidodo Road. Go and see it. You can tell that this gentleman is anti-development, is allergic to development. He never built dams that he promised people. He used to just hijack other people's projects. I say Mastango, achitanga ari kuita something in that area whilst doing nothing. Security wake muzvirise as tell them Mzaya munhu wese akamboshanda neZANU-PF imhonde. That's true. So another reason why I'm saying Kasukwere cannot be a very good presidential candidate or president of Zimbabwe, nepotism ndo pamusha payo. Nepotism ndo yakambata, because nepotism ndo word rekuti Kasukwere is mastered. I think in his entire education journey or whatever, nepotism is a word that Kasukwere has mastered. He has implemented this word in a short stint political life. He became a minister, he became a member of parliament, because he became an MP, deputy minister, then a minister. I think minister of 2 or 3 different portfolios that he held. He implemented with acumen this word we call nepotism. So you find vakamboverenga bhuku rakanyorwa na ainzani kumfesiyo akangana man Kasukwere, he used his influence as a minister and the ZANU-PF Politburo member to appoint or facilitate the appointment of members of his family in top political positions. No nepotism at Ruktaur. Baba Waya, when he was minister and when he was in the Politburo, his ZANU-PF, he used his influence, his positions, to make sure that his members of family are appointed in top political positions. My business, aingwenda kumuridzake, and murgona. When he was still a ZANU-PF Politburo member, Kasukwere, he made frantic efforts for his brother, 𝗏𝗏𝗱𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 ane video yake imwe inotrenda sereke yazomukwanisa ujeri yekuti dambudzo bhodha jamba. Remember that video. Kuti makaita basa rekutanda dambudziko bhodha jamba. That guy anonzi 𝗖𝗁 that guy. But vanhu vazhinji vanomuziva kuti anonzi Dickson Mafiosi yo. The guy with the blood in his hands. A brutal murder. Ainzi Mafiosi yo. Kasikuere made akaita ma-efforts ekumeka sure kuti Mafios Dickson becomes Mashonaland Central Provincial chairperson for Mash. He wanted to become chairperson for Mash Central Province. Electorate yakaramba. Yakazviramba. Saka Sukwere, he provided financial assistance to Mafios campaign to become provincial chair. Anyone who echoed sentiments of disapproval of Mafios leadership was threatened with unspecified action by Kasukwere. And ukada kutsvaga ena imotsvaga mufesi ainzi Sidney Chidamba. Ainzi Sidney Chidamba. Ndiye mufesi akakiwa na akakiwa mufesi yo. Even Kasukwere chai anenge akatombo exchange zvibhagera nemufesi yo. Ainzi Sidney yo. Mazana auraya vanhu nana Bindura. If you go kunana Bindura kono eponda vanhu ndo vana Chidamba avakatomboita kutombochinjana zvibhagera chaizvo kuti watuka 𝗖𝗁. Anditi vana Mafios ava vangasikabvumirwe kukriticize vana Mafios kungonzwikwa chete warova pasi. Vakanga vakagadzira vakomana vanakasukwere vaive nechigenga chavo chaita ngese top 5 top 6 top 5 yaPhilipi-Chiyangwa yekuchinoi yekuti waingoti kungodai zvaPhilipi-Chiyangwa chete aitova pamotikari nemari nemasutsu nematemo waitemwa nevakomana vaya. Ndo pakanga pasvika vanakasukwere nana mafios kuti vakanga vasingabatiki vakomana vaifira mahara kuMarsh Central. Andorwana. Not only did Kasukwere abuse his political power for mafios to be provincial chairman, but he also picked his young brother 𝗖𝗁 from the political wilderness to become the 4th powerful man in ZANU-PF Youth League. Everything this happened through Kasukwere. So through Kasukwere's influence, 𝗁 was first voted in absentia to become the DCC Youth Affairs Secretary with ZANU-PF, a position which was earmarked for 𝗗𝗏𝗽𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 Kasukwere tsenanga muchachi. He was supposed to have been the DCC youth affairs, but akatorerwa nemfana Tongai mfana wakasukwere, and later catapulated to be the secretary for finance in ZANU-PF Youth League. Atopinda national mfana wakasukwere. So another person who benefited from Kasikwere's nepotistic tendencies is Kennedy Banda, the former Pfura Rural District Chairperson, who was imposed on the Mount Darwin people by Kasukwere. Kasukwere Banda, although married, was in an illicit affair with Kasukwere's sister Ainsara, and he was rewarded with a council seat by Kasukwere for plundering his sister. Yeah, I cannot mention how Kasukwere's sister, Nadirai Mapia, was made chairman of Constituency Development Fund in Mount Darwin South, although she was not qualified to do so. I'll also mention how Kasukwere's uncle Terry Marodza was captured, was catapulted to become the National Consultative Assembly member ahead of other deserving comrades. The bottom line is that Kasukwere is nepotistic, and he thrives to promote his relatives to influential posts in a society. No second reason anotaura Kasukwere kuti vangaita president wenyika, cabinet yawo yese inenge yakuita kunge yaMnangagwa, yekuti minister, mautochi, vana, vanin'ina, vanasekuru, vazukuru, vese ndo vari mugovernment yaED today. And so Zimbabwe needs a president who is all-encompassing and above the ban of nepotism. Kasikwere's nepotistic tendencies disqualifies him from the top post in our country. You cannot take position as a president nepotistic. Look at what we are doing with Emmerson Mnangagwa. Although the army, the military, is the one that put him there, we are in trouble as Zimbabweans. Everything chakungoitwa ma-twins anashona. Chakungoitwa chese zvichurweno. Kukutiende kuBelarus ntsvaka mabhazi vana vake. Chrome yabuda vana vake. Goridhe mamaini vana vake. Vanin'ina, vakoma, vazukuru. Ko imimi muchazoita chi? Ndoronza vaya vanonga idipfe. Muti idipfe chi? So far 6 years unei. Iye vana vake, vazukuru vachi, vakwasha chi, vese. Varungomora. Andurugona. No problem to take him nepotistic and give him a very senior position or a top job, or to become first citizen of a country. So the other reason, or a third reason, that makes Kasukwere a very bad choice for president is his appetite for violence. This gentleman is violent. and he has got appetite for violence. The guy just loves fighting. This is how he got his nickname, Tyson. As Tyson wekuti anogona zvimwe zvinhu aiwa. The Tyson noise. The Tyson with violence. Is the chief architect of all the violence that we witness in our country. And you cannot give that type of a person a top post as president of a country. Never. We are struggling with Mnangagwa today because he is Anonzingwena because of violence. Because of violence. And more. Since independence up to now, how many people have disappeared in our country because of Emmerson Mnangagwa? How many people were killed in Zimbabwe, in every election, in Matabeleland, because of Emmerson Mnangagwa? Then you want to replace Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF with a worse person like Tyson. And this name Tyson, or this nickname Tyson, came because of his penchant appetite for violence. This is a reason why I don't like him. Could have even a presidential candidate. I know could a presidential candidate can have campaigns when you understand? Kasikwere is a self-proclaimed thug who is not shy to proclaim it to the world. I remember when he was addressing a rally sometimes in Tafara. You still remember rally raga addressa Tafara 2015 Mavuku, Tafara Mavuku, where he was drumming support for party's parliamentary candidate for Harare East Terence Mkupe. Remember Baibaga were recalled Tendai Biti. Vana kwakaiswa Terence Mkupe ndianga akukambena ikoko. Kasikwere described himself as the biggest thug in the party. At I'm happy to be a thug. Call me a thug. I'm the biggest thug in ZANU-PF. He was addressing voters. He was threatening voters when he was campaigning for Terence Mkupe in Harare East. You remember that, guys? I think video actually, I will try to get the video and show you. The gentleman wasn't lying at all. I'm not sure because Chakwera is leading one of the most violent parties in the history of Malawi. Lazarus Chakwera is leading one of the most violent party or political parties in the history of Malawi. Kamuzu Banda was the leader of that political party, just like Robert Mugabe. And Kamuzu used to, Kamuzu aikanda wanu ku Lake Malombe, achikanda wanu achiva fida, aenda ne helicopter, achikanda ma political activists mu Lake Malombe, vachidyiwa ma crocodiles. Even if you go there today, people there, ma crocodiles Lake Malombe, they were used to be fed from human flesh. And nasi vanongachita kaona munhu anodzingirira crocodile inokuma unge mombe chidzingirira vanhu. Lazarus fielded his family members in government soon after voted into power. Yeah, even his wife, I think. We don't like such type of people, are nepotistic. So you see, Kasikwere is the guy who wants to settle misunderstanding with fists. This is why he calls himself Tyson. To then imagine such a person at the highest position of the country. This is scary, guys. Scary, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot allow that type of a person to occupy the highest office and to rule people when he used to do it without proper power, with an iron fist, suppressing the voice of the people and on. Such leadership at Zimbabwe. vanhu vakaita sana 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶 must stay away from politics, Zimbabwe politics. So this makes him a big no. Tukasikwere gara kuSouth Africa blaz izvekuya zvoda kukonzeresa ruzha izvi chikupondesa vanhu chiponda vanhu ngazvimbomira. My last reason why I don't think Kasikwere is a very good presidential material, reason number 4, which ends Kasikwere a no for the country's top posts, is his lack of respect, especially for war veterans. President Nelson Chamisa addressing the war veterans. Even when I talk, I've got respect for our war veterans, real war veterans who participated during the struggle war. I've got a lot of respect to the real war veterans. I don't have respect for thugs, but Kasikwere doesn't even respect our war veterans. The country's top seat is a scared one, ladies and gentlemen, and it must be occupied by an individual who is aware of all his history. Look at President Nelson Chamisa. Even when he addresses Mdara Mugabe, he doesn't shout at Bob. He addresses Mdara Ngweno, he doesn't shout at him. He knows where Zimbabwe came from. He knows the values of the Chimurenga War. And he's the torchbearer of the Chimurenga values. Today, if you talk of anything in Zimbabwe, talk about Chamisa. Chamisa is the torchbearer of the values of the Chimurenga War. When we say the values of Chimurenga War, one of the values of Chimurenga War is a one man, one vote. This is why people went to fight in the bush, because they wanted to be accorded rights to vote. An individual making a decision by putting an X. This is why we went to fight. This is why our fathers died in the bush. And the only person at this juncture who knows that is only Chamisa. Manzwa ma voice messages ari kufamba ekuti vanhu vezanu kumbare vari kuti unopuwa phone unotora picture yeballot paper rako uya uratidza chairman. Your vote is your secret. Hakuna zvakadaro. That is not a one man, one vote. That is not why we went to fight in the war. So I am saying at this juncture, the only person who respects the values of the struggle for Zimbabwe is Nelson Chamisa. That's why an idiot, ZANU-PF man who was addressing people and saying, look, vanhu 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶 sungai mabhegi enyu muende muzodzoka tapedza my elections. That is not why our forefathers went to fight in the bush. I'm not sure if I can I'll show you the video when I get it. This gentleman was addressing a ZANU-PF rally today and was telling people that 𝗍𝗶𝗶 people must pack their bags and leave and come back after elections. That is not why we went to war to fight. That's not why we fought Ian Smith regime. No. We did not fight Ian Smith regime to deny other people chance to vote. But we said we are fighting Ian Smith regime so that every Zimbabwean can have one man, one vote. That principle, that value is the one that is held by Nelson Chamisa. This is why we say there is no other or none or no other presidential material, presidential candidate in Zimbabwe who hold the values of Chimurenga than Nelson Chamisa. This is why you see he respects our members of the war veterans. The actual members of war veterans, not the bogus, not the fake like our national Timber. Chinotimba, ZANU-PF yakataura is not a member, is not a war veteran. You all heard about this. When ZANU-PF said Chinotimba is not a member of war veteran. I'm not saying this, but ZANU-PF said this. That Chinotimba is not a member of war veterans. He never fought in the war. But President Nelson Chamisa has got respect for those who went to fight in the war. He knows our history very well. He is aware of our history. He is the right candidate for the top posts in our country. Because our war veterans now are earning nothing. Remember, when BT was finance minister, he was paying them around $380 a month. They demanded $600 a month. They went to demonstrate at BT's office. Today, they are earning less than $2 a month. They've never demonstrated at Mtulingwe's office. This is what shows you that these are bogus war veterans. We don't respect those type of people. We respect the real war members of war veterans. Not 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 struggle. So the only person who holds the values of Chimurenga is President Nelson Chamisa. So the person must be in the know-how of how this great nation was birthed, how Zimbabwe came into being. Nelson Chamisa is aware of how Zimbabwe came into being. It is no secret that this country, Zimbabwe, is a result of a protracted struggle war where a lot of men and women sacrificed their lives to free Zimbabweans from the jaws of oppression, colonialism and oppression. This is what we believe. This is what we thought, that our fathers are sacrificing their lives. They are going in the bush to fight the Ian Smith regime, a well-oiled military machine run by Ian Smith regime. And when they went there, they said they are fighting colonialism. Even the British had surrendered to Zimbabwe to say, look, Ian Smith, we don't want anything to do with the colonialism. The British government itself, they told Ian Smith, we don't want anything to do with the colonialism. Why can't you let blacks run their affairs? And Smith refused, declared UDI. So when we went there, we were fighting oppression that was implemented by Ian Smith. Our fathers sacrificed. So those people who sacrificed their lives, Chamisa has got respect of those people. This is why you see President Nelson Chamisa every day. He talks about the values of Chimurenga, and he respects the values of Chimurenga. He is the only Zimbabwean at the moment, the only presidential candidate who holds the values of Chimurenga, who has got keys to the values of Chimurenga. The rest are now looters and thieves. Most of them did not participate. They don't understand what are the values and what were the values. So 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃 seems to be unaware of this important part of our history. He doesn't know this important history. If he knew about it, then he was supposed to respect members of the war veterans, those who sacrificed their lives and perished in the liberation struggle. This is why you see President Chamisa has got respect of this. In 2015, in an interview with the Newsday, 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃 himself portrayed war veterans as drunkards. And he went further to say some of them are not real war veterans. 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃 went on an extra mile in lashing out against the war veterans when he depicted them as taxi drivers and not veterans of the liberation struggle. So 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃's verbal attack against our war veterans is not surprising, because he comes from a family of sellouts and war deserters. There is no war veteran in his entire life, entire family. Go there, ask him. Not even a war collaborator there. Instead, it is believed that his father, who had a small tuck shop, 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃 under Chief Matope in Mount Darin, was chief sponsor of Madzakusaku. Vanhu vaicheka vanhu miromo, vachita roadblocks, vachirova vanhu vaibatsira magandanga. So this explains why a sellout blood is in Kasukwere's DNA. You can't compare him with the chief 𝗏𝗏𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗏. Chamisa is in the lineage of the 𝗏𝗏𝗱𝗶𝗏. Umambo wavo ndio mudzinza ravo. Wakasiyana nezvana vananingirikini vanakasukwere. So only in his dreams will Kasukwere be the president of Zimbabwe. Only in his dreams will Kasukwere be the president of Zimbabwe. I am going to look into other factors that I feel. These are 4 reasons that I've given you, which I feel Kasukwere should not bother himself to come to Zimbabwe and say he's a presidential candidate. And I got on some woman, I wanted, hey, when you do, when are you doing? I got some list of war veterans, I don't family man. List of war veterans in my family. I'm not going to name some of them here. Because ndikataura papa vana sekuru vangu vana mbuya vanani vanga victimized. The people who actually participated in the struggle for Zimbabwe vakaenda outside kunotrainwa. Ndakazobvunzwa naZimondi paradzai willing Zimondi uyo akazondibvunza mwamusi zvikanzi Yuda ndikati chef makadi zvikanzi ningi unomuziva ndikati ndisekuru wangu zvikanzi really ndikati zvikanzi vaitondibvunza sekuru wako iwe vachitaura ranzi kuprison mune muzukuru wangu ikoko adoyo hatichada kutaura zvakawanda because I don't want these people to be victimized. Ndakachema vanhu vazhinji ndakachema pakafa Stanley Matunira kuprison. Faka blaka master padzakafa mudhara Matunira ndakachema because he is the only person who understood me in prison services. Why ndaida MDC? Why ndaida MDC? Ndiye munhu aindinzwisisa. Pakafa Stanley ndakachema. Pandaida kudzingwa basa akavataurira vanhu vakati uyu mupana munomudzingirei basa rekuti ada MDC ndo zvamunoda kumudzingira basa chete. Kanzi kana aita politics dzake imi muri kuita politics dzenyu dzeZANU PF akakudzingai basa ndiani? Muregei aite politics dzake. Because Stanley Matunira used to know my sekuru. Aitoziva sekuru wangu aivaziva kubva hondo ichipera. Handisura kutaura zita rake mudhara yeye ndikamukanganise mararamiro aanoita because anorarama upenyu hwakanaka. This is why you see I've got respect of war veterans. This is why you see I know President Chamisa respect members of war veterans. And more. Saka nyaya tukutaura panapa inyaya yakanaka, ladies and gentlemen. Because if I look back, mabasa akaitwa na 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗶 Kasukwere, people have endured oppression in Zimbabwe without even demanding fundamental change and a complete overhaul of our system. So for Kasukwere to come back under what he did to become a presidential candidate, this is a recipe for catastrophe. I am telling you. Because the gentleman, as I've mentioned earlier on, is so addicted. And he depends on violence to win elections. His brother became chairperson with National and Central through violence. Here he became member of parliament in Mount Darwin South through violence. Mount Darwin South was going to take a t-shirt MDC. Musha waiparara misha yakapera Mount Darwin. Remember kunana Mount Darwin ndokuwanikwa mine yakazara nezvituna zvakapfeka majezi, my latest jezi Manchester United. Zvinzi zvituna zvakafa during the war. Munhu achidonha nyama kudai. Enzi akafa during the war. Akapfeka jezi reManchester United, latest jezi reManchester United in Mount Darwin. Esa anga ari mabasa 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃. This is why, so why I'm saying this, ladies and gentlemen, because I've seen quite a lot of videos of ZANU-PF people initiating violence. They want violence, but my elections are too good. 2023 elections are a watershed election. What I'm saying is, as 𝗍𝗶𝗃, we are not scared of this election. We are not scared at all. Because we know we have outnumbered ZANU-PF. We know we have outnumbered any political party. 𝗍𝗶𝗃 is the only political party that is outnumbered any political party. Look at ZANU-PF rallies. Hands mapostori for ED. Kunotumwa mabhazi. Emahara kunokokorodza vanhu kuya kuzovaunganidza kuti vanzwe ED achitaura. Chiitai kuti paitwe rally reTriple-C. Vanhu vari kufamba netsoka, vanhu vakurara vachifamba netsoka kuya kuzonzwa 𝗍𝗶𝗃, kuya kuzonzwa President Chamisa vachitaura. Saka izvo zvakutokuratidza zvega kuti when we go into an election, hakusina chinhu chinonzi ZANU-PF. If you see what's happening now, even if Kasukere comes to Zimbabwe to contest, he is not going to contest against 𝗍𝗶𝗃, but he will be clashing. They will be clashing amongst themselves, ZANU-PF. They will be clashing amongst themselves. But I am talking about 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃, so that those who are sitting on the fence, who do not know where to go, honestly, you can't go to Kasukere. Put your X on President Nelson Chamisa. Dimona nduku kumbirisisa nasi. 23 August is not far. It's near. Your X is needed for President Nelson Chamisa. Because Kasukwere's image is tattered. It's a tattered image. He cannot mend it within 4 weeks. Zasara to pin them in election. And the Kwasara, the June, July, 4 weeks straight. August, to that 2 weeks August. Sakatine 6 weeks left to go into a general election. And Kasukwere cannot amend his tattered image to become the darling of the crowd in our country. No. Let them clash amongst themselves, ZANU-PF. Kana achiuya, he is basing his support in ZANU-PF, but iri danda eti. So wouldn't nditarisire kuti vanhu vangati kana muzanu macho vangamhanyire kunomuvhotera. I don't see people voting for Kasukere. I don't see that. Because Pandatara ane this penchant of violence. This gentleman, when he was Secretary of Canada, when he was Deputy Minister, Minister of Youth Development, kunana 2005 to 2009, he was Deputy Minister of Youth Development and Employment. This gentleman, that period is a very crucial period in the history of Zimbabwe. This is a period where ZANU-PF trained and deployed youth to disrupt all political activities in our country. We were in MDC during that time. When Kasukere was Deputy Minister for Youth and Employment Creation. You saw what happened in 2008. You saw, I don't need to repeat what happened in 2008. When he was Deputy Minister for Youth. You saw what happened. Instead of him help youth instead of him creating employment to assist youth getting employment, he was overseeing training of border against youth militias, deploying them to cause mayhem, to disrupt everything that was known as politics in our country. Opposition politics was destroyed. And my journalists were assassinated, were beaten. My journalists, my civic groups are my student movements, and my kuleba one way the demonstration when I find my youth brigade is on during 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃's time. So why Kasukwere was doing that? He feared to lose elections. ZANU-PF did not want to lose elections. This is why they had to utilize 𝗍𝗲 Kasukwere when he was a deputy youth minister of youth, deputy minister for youth development and employment creation. Atete Masimazi. Kasukwere is supposed to be in prison. This is, yeah, exactly. Atete Masimurise. He is supposed to be in prison. Because he created a party machine that was supposed to mobilize for mass support for ZANU-PF. By creating employment for the party. By developing our youth. But instead, he created a violent machinery for ZANU-PF just to keep themselves in power, to keep ZANU-PF in power, to keep Mugabe in power, to win election with violence. So he is a person addicted to violence. And for him to come as a presidential candidate, this is a recipe for catastrophe. Zimbabweans, we need to wise up. We need to be wise. And because Kasukwere today cannot come to you and talk about peace and stability in the country, which he failed to bring when he was member of parliament, which he failed to bring when he was deputy minister, which he failed to bring when he held different ministerial positions. He never spoke about peace and stability in our country. He never spoke about encouragement of investment in our country. He never spoke about economic development in our country. So you wonder what he will initiate when he becomes president of a country. He had all this opportunity. He had all this opportunity. Because the first and foremost question to Kasukwere concerns peace. You had all the world in your hands to ensure Zimbabwe is a peaceful country. So that you knew, obvious, that you held these presidential ambitions. First and foremost, you were supposed to have ensured that peace prevails in our country. So that the people of Zimbabwe, when it comes, when your time comes, they will make decisions to say, okay, this was the only sensible ZANU-PF leader who ensured that peace and stability prevailed in our country. So let's vote for him. It's very unfortunate that this gentleman, he never thought that one day he could vie for this top office. This is why he never spoke about peace. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, that without peace, there is no development in a country. Without development, there can be no peace. Kasukwere should have known that. That in a country that lacks democracy, there can be no peace. Without peace, there can be no democracy. So these are four things Kasukwere should have known. That without peace, there is no development in a country. Without development, there can be no peace. Without democracy, there can be no peace. Without peace, there can be no democracy. These are the principles that our dear brother should have considered before he threw his head into the ring to say he wants to be a presidential candidate. He's just a thug, he's just violent. So if Zimbabweans put him in power, Zimbabweans, they will be killed like cockroaches. Definitely. You will die like cockroaches. Because peace, Chinchinon's peace, it promotes the economic arteries of a country. This is why I'm saying, first and foremost, the question of peace should be imposed to 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃. Because peace, it's on its own, it promotes the economic arteries of a country. So 𝗍𝗂𝗃 could not coexist in a peaceful environment with the citizens. He can't. He's someone who cannot coexist with the citizens in a country. He cannot coexist with the citizens in a peaceful environment. He has never campaigned for peace in our country. He is the person we can ask today. We know. He knows where 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃 is. 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃, Jonathan Moyo. These are the culprits. These are the people who knows where 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗃 is. Because 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃, at one time he was appointed Minister of Environment. That was in 2013. And he was appointed Minister of Local Government, Public Works, National Housing and Rural Development before he was deposed in a coup in 2017. So he went into parliament at the age of 30. He was very young. He was very young. He was born in 1970. He's just older than me by 1 year. He went into parliament as a young person at 30 years of age. Even when the 𝗿𝗲𝗰𝗁𝗃𝗃 was initiated in our country in 2000, this boy was a young boy at 30 years. He thought we didn't want land reform program. To him, he thought we are sellouts, people who do not want land reform program. But little known that we were the first political party to talk about land reform in our country. MDC was the first political party to talk about land reform in our program. And vanakasukwere vakazomhanyira kunobatira pamusoro kuti vakuda land reform yakanga yatangwa naMudhara Tsvangirai. And so they hijacked an idea that was started by our president, Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. Little known that we agreed in principle with the need of land reform. And we only differed 𝗍𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 on methodology. We didn't want it done haphazardly. Mudhara Tsvangirai vakaparura the way land reform was supposed to have been done. I'm not going to dwell on that. So we talk about vanakasukwera. The same people vaifurira vana mangudya kuti vaite introduce ma-RTGs kana ma-bond notes nema-biera nana-gono during gono's era. Vakomana vaisa ma-biera checks ava. No. Mkoma Gideon Chisale. ZANU-PF. I mean, land reform inaotangwa neZAPU. If we talk of land reform, yakatangwa naNdabaningi-Sithole. Land reform yakatangwa naNdabaningi, not ZANU. Yakatangwa naNdabaningi-Sithole. Sekuru vangu vave nefamu yavakatanga kupa vanhu. Vakati vanhu ngavagare pafama. If you know Zimbabwe history, the first politician to surrender a farm, kuti vanhu havana pekugara, let me house these people here, it was Ndabaningi-Sithole, not ZAPU. Not ZAPU. Do your research properly. You know what I'm talking about. If you go to Harare, kune farm yainzi Churu farm. That farm belonged to my Sekuru, Ndabaningi-Sithole. And he is the only politician who took his farm and allocated people where to live. People were were accommodated at Churu Farm, but were later violently removed by ZANU-PF. So if we talk of land reform, it was not started by ZAP, it was started by 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. Zimbabwe ndoiziva baba Mkoma Gideon. I know Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe politics are now zitanga kudhara. I was not actively involved kusvika kuma 1999, but akazoona kuti no, I should go into politics full time now. Land reform program was started by 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. But the one that was hijacked by ZANU-PF and done haphazardly was the idea of Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. No, it was ZAP. Just it's not ZAP. It's not ZAP. ZAP haina prazi rayakapa vanhu. Haina. Sekuru vangu inini 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃 surrendered Churu Farm to the people of Zimbabwe. It's not ZAP. No, ZAP haina kana munhu akaresettler. Haina. Land reform was started na 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃. ZAP haina munhu akaresettler. Which farm yakaresettler vanhu neZAP? I need to know. Because in the history of Zimbabwe, the only politician who surrendered a farm to say farm in the but when I want to why can't I give this farm to the people? It was just in 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃. Not any other politician in Zimbabwe. ZAP yave nemapurazi aya yairima zveZAP. Zvazvisinei nekuresettler vanhu. There were political farms dzeZAP. Kwainzi kwaitwa maarms kechi kuyakwe. Angari ma-farms eZAP. That was not for land reform program. Angatori project eZAP. Yekuita ma-fundraising zavo. But I'm talking of someone who saw public kuti haina pekugara and surrendered a farm kuti isai vanhu apa vagare. It was only 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. No any other politician in our country. And so it's not ZAP, no. Not ZAP. ZAP yave nema-farms ayo, ma-projects ayo. Asine nechekuita ne-land reform. So, this is why you see, this is the subject and kutaura inocreate ma-emotions iyoyi. Inocreate vanhu kuti vave vanhu vatukane kuita ma-insults panapa. Ukatarisa vana kaSukuere kuti vafurira vana Gono kusama RTGS, that was a criminal way planned nana kaSukuere negovernment yaMugabe to mob people's hard-earned monies. Vanhu vakasara vasina mari kumabhengi nezvimabhiyera cheki zvazvo. Waiti taive nemari dzataichengeta isusu. Takajoina ma-funeral policies, takajoina ma-policies investment policies that after 10 years unopuwa 18,000. 18,000 waibva watenga imba. Takajoina izvo zviyazvi. Zvatakajoina 96 tichipinda basa. But pakangozoya ma-RTGS 18,000 yanga isichakwane sweet. Kana ukaenda kuinsurance company ndakuda 18,000 yangu, yanga usakutengeka na minti Kristo. Sweet one yanga isichakwane. Saka vana kaSukuere, they presided over a government that put a plan to mob people's hard-earned cash. Kusara vanhu vasina mari. Instead, they went on to create ma-truths, ma-ZANU-PF truths, blind followers, conspiracy theories, peddlers, and more. As like as the house discussion, ZAPU demanded land as their main point. Everybody was demanding land at that time. Even ZANU-PF were demanding land. There are some videos wana before Langesa Jaichai wana Chitepo vachitaura about land reform. Why we were fighting. Wana Tongogara vachitaura before Langesa talks, they were talking about land. But we are talking after independence. That ZAP was there. They never initiated land reform after independence. They never initiated land reform. ZAPU had farms that it could have settled people, but it never settled anyone. It's only 𝗗𝗶𝗽𝗃𝗀𝗃 akakwanisa kusettle vanhu pafamu yake. And after how many years? From 1980 to 2000, ZAPU never spoke about land. ZAPU never spoke about land. From 1980 to 2000, it's only Tsvangirai who came with that idea after war. Yes. Tongogara was, yes, he was preaching land to the people. Tongogara. That's very true, Mkomati Zirwai. Before longest house talks, Tongogara, those people who went to war, they were preaching about land reform. But after 1980, nobody preached the land reform program. Except in 𝗗𝗶𝗽𝗃𝗀𝗃. After 𝗗𝗶𝗽𝗃𝗀𝗃 came to 1999, Mdara Tsvangirai vakataura vakati, we were waiting since 1980 kuti hurumende ichagovera minda. Tasvika pakuti taona kuti tatochembera tisina minda. Mdara Tsvangirai started preaching about land reform program. He's the only politician later on after 𝗗𝗶𝗽𝗃𝗀𝗃 to talk about land reform. An idea which was then hijacked by ZANU-PF. And so ZANU-PF hijacked that idea and tried to woo supporters, tried to woo people, tried to win mass sympathy from Zimbabweans and support. But the way they did it, it was haphazard. It was haphazardly done. And it was haphazardly done. Nobody wanted, even Tsvangirai, when he talked about land reform program, he did not want it done the way ZANU-PF did it. And the pakatanga noise Ruja, 𝗗𝗃𝗱𝗃𝗃𝗃. We remember, you guys remember, when he was Youth Development, Indigenization and Empowerment Minister, Kasikwere. This is where even the foreign banks, Zimbabwe, Bank, Barclays, Nana Standard Chartered Bank. I'm not sure if these banks still exist there. Because Kasikwere, land reform program, vakatanga noise nema bank. Vatanga noise nema bank, because mabank aya nyika dzao Standard Chartered yanga iri UK, I think, ne Barclays. Zvikazvi kwavanobva mabank aya ari kuoperate freely in this country. Nyika dzao dzakatisa pama-sanctions. Saka mabank aya ngaarowo nema-sanctions. Remember, in his actual words, I'm going to say what Kasikwere said in his actual words. He said, we cannot have a situation where their countries impose the sanctions on us and they are still operating freely. They should also be put under sanctions. We are talking about someone who wants to be president today. When he made such statements that destroyed the country. When he paged the foreign banks, such as Barclays and Standard Chartered Bank, for not willing to support farmers after they've done in a haphazard land reform program. They wanted these banks to give vanhu vasina kana title deeds support, kuvapa mari zvikwereti. They didn't know that these banks were operating. These were businesses. You operate at a profit. If you are a businessman, operator, which had a profit. But he started paging these banks because he said these banks were not willing to support new farmers after that haphazard land reform program. He helped destroy the country. This is why you see our economy is in intensive care now. Because, to be honest, he urged his ZANU-PF supporters to take drastic action against my companies whose government are punishing the people of Zimbabwe with sanctions. These targeted sanctions, when they look at themselves, Muzano, they say, we are Zimbabwe. Even if they are hit hard by those sanctions, they want Zimbabweans to cry with them. 𝗏𝗂𝗃𝗏 is one of the former ministers on sanctions list. So if he looks at himself, he thinks he's Zimbabwe. And when he's hit by sanctions, he cries to say, look, we are hated Zimbabweans. So he wanted his youth to take drastic action against these banks, to take drastic action against all the white people in our country. Remember, this guy was once a Minister of Environment and Water and Climate Change himself, 𝗏𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗏. So during his time, the guy who's now saying, I'm repentant, I'm apologizing to the people of Zimbabwe, I want to be your president. This is the same gentleman who led the manipulation of election results and it to 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗱𝗏𝗁 survival. He didn't know that he is weakening 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗱𝗏. He used the political violence to make 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗱𝗏 survive. He thought he was weakening opposition political participation, especially in Mashonaland, Mashonaland West, Central, East. Haana kuziva kuti zvaari kuita is discouraging people from supporting 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗱𝗏. He thought he's discouraging people from supporting opposition in future elections. This is why you see 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗱𝗏 yakazozvamburwa zvekuzvamburwa zva 2008. And imona, whilst he was a member of parliament, or whilst he was campaigning for being an MP, and whilst or during all the presidential elections, this 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 He ensured that Zimbabwean voters were intimidated. They received regular beatings. Magaro amaiona akatsva evakadzi vachibayiwa nemapanga vachijungwa nemapanga kumagaro vakadzi ava akanga ari mabasa aSevhas nemayouth brigade ake ari deputy minister weyouth akazoita minister weyouth. So the problem is that same person who ensured that Zimbabwean voters receive regular beatings in every election. Anyone who supported opposition was bashed by youth militias. And these people were led by him, 𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗶𝗃. Asi pamataura yakaswera kuti aive minister weclimate ndagaya zvaitwa machembere kumusha in 2008. Hanzi mvura haisi kunaya yakateiwa nevarungu kuti isasvika kuZimbabwe. That is exactly, that's true. That's what they were telling mambuya edu kumusha uko. Kuti varungu vabata mvura mudenga kuti mvura isanaya. Kukaita drought, I think 2012 akataura kuti mvura yabatwa nevarungu kuti isanaya. Aitora mambuya sevanhu vasina basa. Saka you find just that vanakasukwere, when they were at the helm, they used the threats of punishment kuti vawine ma-elections. And anymore. Even if you look today, ZANU-PF grew in that culture of using extreme intimidation kuti vawine ma-elections. Ndosaka muri kuona tunhu twetu tunenge chiti idipfetu anotudhara twetu akutaura rekai muone ndoiwana iri video yacho iri paTwitter. Ndaisa kuTwitter. Ndaisa kuTwitter shit. Amendi ndosvika here kuTwitter kwacho. Pane video yandaisa paTwitter yandaida kukuratidzai kuti culture yacho yo haina kupera kuZANU. culture yana kasikuere aina kupera kuzana yekuti vaka adopta a very bad culture yekufunga kuti vaka intimidate vanhu. This is why they will win elections. Let me see if I can get that video. I'm trying to get that video. Or else ndikaishaya ndichaiposta paningiri pangu muiona. Vanhu vezano adopted the culture of threats of punishment to opposition party. Now they are saying if 𝗏𝗏𝐶 wins, when you suffer punishment isingaperi. This is what they are saying now. Saka you find with that same 𝗍𝗱𝗱𝗃𝗃 we are talking about, when he became Minister of Local Government, akatanga kuparadza makanzuru, sabotaging the councils together namdara mnangagwa, talking every day about sabotaging the council. He went to Gweru Kasikuere 𝗍𝗱𝗱𝗃𝗃. He suspended Gweru council, my councillors ese Gweru, including the mayor. Na deputy mayor wacho wese, he akawa suspended on allegations of gross misconduct, mismanagement of council funds and affairs. Kasikuere watu kutawarane zvake. Until MD started to MDC, remember, takatona approach at the High Court. According to the new constitution, asina masimba ezvaari kuita murume. And mugona, so decision was called unconstitutional by Bulawayo High Court. It ruled that the minister is no longer enjoy such privileges or powers under the new order. Ndokuruza kwakaita nyaya yakasikuera. Then he was directed by the High Court, by the court, to cancel all the suspensions and reinstate the councillors to their respective positions. Kasikuere did not comply with this directive, fueling concerns about the separation of powers, the rule of law, and the judicial independence or dependence. He failed to accept the decision of a court. He failed to demonstrate commitment to respecting the rule of law. Surprisingly, that person wants to be your president. He is coming in now to be your president. Chicago, mpana wangu Eustace. Eustace akapopota akapenga. Uzakara kanambunzwa mpana Eustace achitaura sense. He was talking about 𝗍𝗱𝗱𝗃𝗃 nda posta imwe post yakasikuere. Mpana wangu akapenga. Ndakabva ndafunga kuti mpana izi true ZANU-PF kana kuti nezvimwe zvezve. Akapenga Eustace. Zvikanzi mukoma, Zimbabwe is reeling under sanctions today. Andauziva kudhara ndaiti ndikayapa live on Facebook panapo. Vanhu vanondiziva vanobata nyaya yema-sanctions panapo. Ndaiti these are just targeted sanctions varume. They don't affect the country. Unenge usiri well informed about sanctions. If you say targeted sanctions don't affect economy of a country, unenge usiri well informed. Because my targeted sanctions actually, they are not targeting individuals only. They are spread. They are spread. My targeted sanctions are. I don't spread kunge octopus. Because I don't batter all forms of production. Because kana kasikuera ngani makambani 10. Makambani akari 10 esanonzi ma sanctions. Iyo vanzi ma sanctions. That means that is part of production vayafa. Really say in general. Sometimes we have to admit, sometimes I was wrong when I spoke about targeted sanctions would affect economy in Nika. Definitely, these targeted sanctions, they affect economy in Zimbabwe. Because the key players in the economy are targeted, are put on sanctions that affect the economy of a country. Taiwan is well informed about these targeted sanctions. This is why you see now, President Nelson Chamisa, no. These sanctions, they must go now. They are serving no purpose. We have had these sanctions from 2001 until today. What are they serving? What are they serving? What are they serving? From 2001 up to now, we should have seen the effects of the sanctions. But we are seeing the suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. People of Zimbabwe are the ones suffering. Because when we are targeted, as I'm talking about, we are talking about Munangagwa and his family. They fly wherever they want to go. They are looting because of sanctions. Managasugwere, they are living pretty in South Africa. Although they are on sanctions. This is why I said to myself, why is the West now continuing to keep the sanctions? Because they are serving no purpose. Elections are rigged because of sanctions. So they go on to rig elections. I see no reason why these sanctions should be kept on. I see no reason why. To be honest with you guys, I see no reason why the West should maintain these sanctions. They serve no purpose. When I'm juru wakamboiswa of my sanctions, tikanzwa wabviswa. Vanachiwenga tikanzwa wabviswa of my sanctions. So what are these sanctions for? What are they honestly for? Because mbavha dzacho iri kuti yabuda muzanu mobvisa. Yodzoka futi kuzanu, muchaidzosera here. They're serving no purpose. I see no purpose, honestly. I see no purpose of these sanctions. But the sanctions, Ian Smith, they weakened Smith. But our sanctions are individually targeted, but they spread and touch key positions of the economy. At the end, we are suffering. Our people are suffering. You understand? Mpana Eustace akapopota akati masanctions akaiswa because of vanakasikuere ivava. Vachinotaurira mudhara bhobho zvisizvo. Kusvika takuvara nemasanctions now. Vana vari kupera kutiza nyika yeZimbabwe, mishonga hakuchina, zvipatara zvavharwa, manesi ari kutiza. Vana chiremba hatichina. And vanhu varipo ava, they've got no clue kuti masanctions acho kuti abviswa vanoita sei. And Western countries, honestly, they are not going to remove these sanctions anytime soon. That means our suffering will continue. And these people will rig elections because we are under sanctions. And vanonga vachiaccuse the opposition kuti ndo iri kukonzera masanctions iwayo. Little known that they were the people who caused those sanctions. Vanakasikwere were the people who ensured that sanctions were imposed. Vachinzi musarova vanhu vairova vanhu. Musapwanya, musauraya dzimbwa mapurazi vachiuraya dzimbwa. Musapfura mabhuna nemapurazi. Kana muchida land, tegarai pasi mutaurirane. Because vanhu vamuri kupfura muri kuuraya vane land yacho are Zimbabweans as well. They are white Zimbabweans, black Zimbabweans, Makaradi Zimbabweans, Masope Zimbabweans. It's a multiracial country. You are killing them. Muchitora land yacho. What for? Garai pasi mutaurirane. Vanakasikwira kwaoma musoro. Vakakondinya kuita zvinhu zvaita kuti masanctions auye munyika. They were happy to have those sanctions. This is why we are calling for the sanctions to be lifted. We are calling for the sanctions to be removed. They are serving no purpose. People are suffering. And then Murugona. The vines, Vanakasukwera, no Arokonzera, Vaikakonzera, Kunzi Zimbabwe are in a rule of law. Vashendo interfere. Nema councils are elected Nevano. They interfered with these councils. Kushika vanu vanoziva democracy vakuti no, we cannot associate nevanhu ava. Havazive chinonzi democracy. They have to learn democracy. Kasukwero was told to cancel suspension yake yekugweru cancel yese. But you see, 𝗍𝗲𝗽𝗍𝗀 𝗍𝗍𝗃 refused to comply with the court orders. Kusvika takunzi hatina rule of law. Ndozvaipopotwa nemupano wangu Eustace ukazi mukoma shepherd munoposta rubbish idzo. Vanhu vakaenda kuturwa nemasanctions. Ndiye pana ndionesa zvimwe zvinhu akati vanhu vakaenda kuturwa nemasanctions mudhara. They don't respect the rule of law. Vanakasukwera. Court ikapa order, they don't respect court order. Saka nyika dzimwe dzinoona dzoti mune judiciary yakaita sei munyika. Takurohwa nemasanctions vanhu vakutambura. This is why you see today, I said, oh, sometimes zvimwe zvinhu tinotaura tisingazive, but those sanctions must be removed now. They have served no purpose. They have caused our suffering. They have caused Zimbabwe suffering. And imon. Kasukwere zvaitaura nomupana wangu zvikanzi mukoma shepherd 2016 abva kugweru Kasukwere akatanga kunetsana nameya weHarare ainzi Beni Manyenyeni. Oh, boom, amurova suspension. Andimona. So he fought my cities. He fought to remove my elected mayors. He fought to ensure that Gweru, Bulawayo, all my major cities and my elected people, they were crippled. Ndosaka muri kuona izvinezvi kuti interference yake yema cities iwayo vari tuna Mnangagwa, it caused politically motivated rubbish in Harare. Ukaenda muHarare zvinhu zvinonzi akutakurwe marara. It's because of Kasukwere. Because of Emmerson Mnangagwa. You understand? They caused all this by interfering with elected councillors. Hanzi varita mismanagement yemari. Yawaziva mari yemismanagement yemakanzuru. Ko mari yenyika yamukuita mismanage. Androona. Saka muri kuona vanhu mpada Eustace akanipengera kada mudhara mungataure nyaya dzakasukwere. Azviite. Munhu akakonzera kuti hanzi Mugabe aitsura. Mugabe hanzi aitsura kuti no izvanyanya izvi. This is why at one time Robert akataura kuti no, I'm resigning. 2008 Mugabe akati regai vanatsvangirai vatonga. Tadyiwa election. Vanakasukwera akati hazviite mudhara muende. Vakatanga kurova vanhu vachitsurwa naMugabe kunzi musarova vanhu imimi. Vakaramba vachiponda vachirova vanhu kusvika tarohwa nemasanctions achingowedzerwa. Gore negore ngadai masanctions akabviswa kudhara. Andimona. Saka sometimes zvimwe zvinhu tinotaura tisina kunyanyongorora kana kuziva. Hakuna chinhu chinonzi targeted sanctions, hakuna. Nyika kana yarohwa nesanction isanction. Tingangomira tikati targeted on ningi, targeted on ningi, targeted on ningi. No. Those are like a web. Andrikona zvakafanana chinonzi chicheche chinobata nhunzi ichi. Chinogadzira web chiya. Spider kana jump we usa web we isa web we yoda bata chinhu one nhunzi. But chitarisa kuti zvinobatwa muweb yespider zvakawanda sei. Spider inogadzira chiweb chaja kuti ibate chikafu, ibate nhunzi. But haizobati nhunzi chete. Ukasvika unoona bane nyuchi, bane chi, zvinhu zvinenge zvabatwa muspider web. So targeted sanctions are like a web, where if imposed hazichabati nhunzi dzakanzi batwe nemasanctions chete, zvakubata newe neni. This is why we are saying sanctions must be removed. I've never supported sanctions myself, but sanctions must be removed. They must be removed. Because ukada kutarisa vana Kasukwere vaivayo, as according to mpana wangu Eustace akataura kuti mudhara, these are the people who oversaw implementation of these so-called targeted sanctions. Those are the same people who led to our suffering. Ma Western countries vakaisa web. Saka web kana web harizobati iye chete, robata newe. Because kana ari ndiye anga achiimpota maparacetamol, company yake yobvanzi ng'apa sanctions zvatopera. Paracetamol haichawaniki kuchipatara. Anditi maona. So we no longer need those sanctions. Nobody in his rightful sense would say those sanctions must be maintained. We don't want them. Those sanctions must go. We know vanakasikwera they are candidates for prison. Mabandita ari panze ari kungozvifambira ekuti akafaila to uphold human rights, akafaila to uphold my rule of law in our country, and it more, which resulted in implementation of these sanctions. Saka tiri kutaura tichiti these are mabandita ari kufamba ari panze asati angohakwa chete. Bosi ukamutarisa when he was Minister of Youth Development, Indigenization and Empowerment, chaakaita chino empower youth chi hapana. Aingotora members of youth militia akataura nemupano wangu zvikanzi vanhu ava ndo vaikurova vanhu vachideploya youth vachiita mabhesi mumaprovince ekuponda vanhu. Nhasi tarohwa nesanctions, ivo ndo vaakuti sanctions is hating them. Sanctions, they are not hating Mnangagwa. Sanctions are not hating Kasukwere. Sanctions are hating Iwewenene. We are caught in a web. Because America ine vanhu vayakatageta. Britain ine vanhu vayo vayakatageta. But vanhu vacho vayakatageta vari matiri. Saka isusu tupinda mcrossfire yema-sanctions. Saka tichapila kuti vana England avo, vana America avo. It's high time these sanctions must go. President Nelson Chamisa has said this time and again. He has even traveled to America. They don't know how that man is crying to the Americans to say they are serving no purpose now. Chamisa has said this time and again that sanctions have served no purpose in our country. We don't need them. Why can't you remove them? But because he doesn't influence foreign policy America, he doesn't influence foreign policy in my Western countries. Even Chamisa akapinda, my sanctions aripo, it's going to be difficult for the Western countries to remove them. This is why we are saying, why can't they go now? Why can't sanctions be removed now? Because we are sick and tired. Tatochena msoro atina chataona. My sanctions bakaiswa 2001, I had black hair. Now I've got gray hair all over. I've never seen benefit of those sanctions. And instead, they have benefited ZANU-PF. They have achieved ZANU-PF victory. They have achieved ZANU-PF objectives. They go to the people and say, look, opposition don't get my sanctions. One war, Michelle Varwa, America, but what are they helping those people who are watch with? And they were I didn't want my hands by the sugar, one sugar does it. Exactly. Now, if you look at it, we have got people who are grower, Nizan, who are grower, my youth militias. Because of sanctions. But grow support opposition, sanctions. The ZANU-PF can't tell the truth. They are the ones who caused those sanctions. Now the people are suffering, they are accusing the opposition. No member of the opposition said do land reform program. Haphazardly. No member of the opposition said train youth militias, block roads, beat up my parents, rovaivan, beside my human rights, beside chi. No member of opposition said that. It's ZANU-PF. So, if sanctions are imposed on them, they say sanctions were imposed by the opposition because the opposition were sanctions. My Western countries now. Why can't you remove those sanctions? What purpose are they serving? Instead, it's a political gimmick by ZANU-PF, and sanctions have benefited ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF have achieved their objectives through sanctions. Everything that they say today is sanctions. Tomorrow is sanctions. They can't buy paracetamol sanctions. $1 to 10,000 RTG is sanction. You understand? To the extent that Zimbabweans no longer understand what sanctions are. So we are saying to the Western countries, why can't you remove those sanctions? Tizoona kuti vana Kasukere kana vouya vanouya vachitaura chii. Because during his time, Kasukere, as Minister of Youth Development, Indigenization and Empowerment, you know what he did, this gentleman? He gave his youth militias and ZANU-PF youth a lot of power. He gave them immense power. He gave them unregulated power, to the extent that they went around the country disrupting meetings. They went around the country raping without consequences. They systematically committed torture and other acts of violence and intimidation against the opposition. They were never arrested. Ngatidzokere kubva ku-2000 violence ichitanga for the past 23 years. Not even one ZANU-PF youth was arrested and incarcerated for rape, but they raped vakadzi, vamwe vaingotorwa maboys mahure vachirepwa nema-youth militias. They were never arrested. They raped people vachiti ma-sanctions. They disrupted these meetings vachiti ma-sanctions. Andimona. Saka a lot of things had happened. ZANU-PF vachiti ma-sanctions. Vana Kasukere vachipa ma-powers to my youth militias. Hanzi language yava kushandisa ini politics ka chak politics. Ku politics survival kuluma kunoluma mumwe. Ande monza nyaya dzati kutaura. So if you look at Kasukere, instead of him empowering the youth, instead of him initiating development of the youth, indigenization of the youth, he controversially recruited those youngsters into 𝗿𝗲𝗽𝗍𝗍 graduates. Some of them were my youth officers, vachiseta mabases ekurovera vanhu pama-elections. You wonder where the empowerment is. And that is same Kasukere is now coming back to you and say, look, you want to be your president. Huh? When he had the power to empower people, he had the power to empower people. Kasukere, instead, he used those youth militias instead of empowering them as indigenous people and develop them. Kuti vave ma-business people, vaite production munyika. He used them to fight an armed civilian populace just for ZANU-PF to retain a defeated dictator in 2008. ZANU-PF to retain power. To me, if I look at 𝗖𝗍𝗱𝗶𝗍𝗶 Kasukere, he is a retard of the West Order. If I look at Kasukere, he is a retard of the West Order. And according to everything that I've said here, he still has guts to come to you and say, I want to be your president. He wants to be your president. He wants to be your president. And you remember, during land reform program, that he assisted in the unleashing of ogre violence. Achitanzi trukuita correct land reform, land redistribution. Saka, you see, that was a vicious revolution, which was never supposed to have been done randomly or haphazardly, because it disrupted a highly organized and efficient agricultural sector. Zimbabwe was a country with an economy centered on agrarian production or agriculture. Agricultural sector sustained the Zimbabwe economy during that time. So it didn't require or it didn't need to be disrupted. But Kasikuere did not care what the future hold about Zimbabwe. He was just a young man in 2000. At 30 years of age, he destroyed the goose that laid the golden egg. And he led a disorganized land reform that had consequences in our country. Today, we've got no food in Zimbabwe. We have no food reserves in our country. The nation starved after that. But who were beneficiaries of it? Vanakasukwere, they were beneficiaries of that land reform. He gained immensely from the spoils of that chaos. Even today, he is gaining from the spoils of sanctions. This is why you see ZANU-PF people, they don't want sanctions to go. They know the sanctions are viswa. Politics are because today, 43 years of independence, they base their politics on sanctions. Ma sanctions are viswa nasi. What a base ani? So, at this juncture, ZANU-PF is too weak and tired to win an election. I am telling you, without violence, the party is too weak. The party is so tired that it can't win an election. So with all these failures, Zakasikwere, from the past mistakes that he made, we need to remind him, stay away from Zimbabwe politics, blaz. The people of Zimbabwe, they have their day to pass judgment on you. I am telling Kasukwere this. Stay. Dari munakangwara. Aingweta yakatambwa namdara Bishop Abeltendeka imzoreo. He just stayed away from politics. He died a peaceful man. Because I am telling you, when the judgment day comes from the people of Zimbabwe, they will judge Kasukwere, they will judge his part. And that judgment day is looming. If I was Kasukwere or those close to Kasukwere, please warn him. At this juncture, ZANU-PF is too weak and tired to win an election. At this juncture, the people of Zimbabwe do not want to hear about Kasukwere, about ZANU-PF. Stay away. Dari munakangwara ngaadye mari dzavakaluta for the past 23 years. Akanyarara. Akavaka 50 bedroom house. Anoenda kuno ngaende kwesambhedha imomo achiti akarara munhasi orara munhasi. Paanopedza 50 days anenge arara 50 mabedrooms. Saka he needs 2 months achinja sama bedrooms ake. This is where he should go. Ane vana 3 children, he's got 3 kids, and you build a 50 bedroom house. You want to come back and say you want to be president of Zimbabwe. Those who are close to him, tell Kasukwere blaz, stay away from Zimbabwe politics. Enjoy your loot to South Africa. Because, to be honest with you, with the Jagaitwana Kasukwere, there is no sane foreigner investor other than a charitable organization would opt to invest in a country where indigenous people will claim 51% of your capital. You inject your capital and someone will come and claim 51%. Region yedu apana singaziye msadag. We've got a lot of countries that are offering tax-free incentives to attract such investors. And for you to dream that they will come and invest in a country where 51% of your investment will be taken away for nothing, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. Hakuna investor nouya. Forget. And and the same guy, he wants to be your president. He's saying, I'm coming to be your president. I want to win election. I want to be president of Zimbabwe. Please tell this boy, stay away from Zimbabwe politics. Stay away. You are irrelevant at this juncture. Andona, mwana akazvarwa nezuro. Akazvarwa pa Mount Darwin up. 1970 ndo pakazvarwa kaSikwere, just a year older than me. Otherwise takatamba tese kuzwaya motikari dzezvipepa, chipepa muroad takatamba tese. Kugadzira motikari dzewaya takagadzira tese muroad. But you were appointed as a minister at a tender age. You were very young. You became a member of parliament at 30 years of age. You were very young. But hauna kana development yawakaita. You were in the Central Intelligence Organization, a state intelligence agency. But atisi kuona intelligence dzako dzekuti wakashandira CIO uri munhu aifanirwa kuva achiratidzika kuti ya une intelligence dzaunadzo. There is a stark difference if you go on Twitter today. Read what 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 write and read what 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗃 write. If someone tells you to Mzembi angari mu-CIO, you can say yes, because there is wisdom in everything he writes. If someone tells you kuti kaSikwere angari ku-CIO, unomurambira kuti apa hapana chinoratidza kuti ane intelligence kana akashanda mu-intelligence unit, haana chaanonyora. There is a stark difference between the two guys. Otherwise, 𝗓𝗡𝗶 would have preferred Mzembi for a president than 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃. Zvibhagera hazviite kuti uite president. Kuzviti Tyson uchikika vanhu miromo hazviite kuti uite president. I've said president ndiye a number one citizen in a country. Anofanira kuva ari intelligent enough kupfuura engineer, kupfuura doctor. Because doctor akaita mistake anogona kuaffecta one or two people. Engineer akaita mistake chitima zvogona kurovana pakafa vanhu 280. But president akaita mistake nyika inostava. Look at what is happening to Zimbabwe. Kuti kana muchiti $1 is equivalent to 10,000 RTGs. It is affecting 15 million Zimbabweans. That mistake affects 15 million Zimbabweans. Because every Zimbabwean arada dollar no ndakabata 10,000 RTGs unotenga dollar. Kuti azotenga chingwa. Saka ibasa rekuti kana tati toda president, toda munhu anenge chamisa ane brain. If given an opportunity kuti 𝗓𝗡𝗶 tsvagai president wechidiki wamoda, I would tell them to go for 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗃. Go on Twitter. Read what Mzembi writes. Unonyatsoona kuti pari kunyorwa zvine brain apa. Anofunga blazu yawo. Kana ukazwa kunzi uyu munhu akashanda kuintelligence haurambe. Unoda kuti kana kuintelligence munoisa kuanalysis ngirina vanoshanda. Andiona. But vamwe vekushandisa zvimbokoma ava vanoda president hazvishande. Because when he was the 𝗓𝗡𝗃, the youth and development, indigenization and empowerment, hapana zvaakaitira mayouth. Andiriona, haana chaakaitira mayouth, because he should have seen mayouth as shareholders veZimbabwe vane ramangwana ravo. But haana kana one chaakaitira mayouth. Aitotaura nyaya dzekubira mainvestors 51% share. Hakuna investor anouya munyika zvakadaro. Because that is a controversial indigenous policy iyoyo yaitaurwa nakaSikwere. Because he had set his eyes on looting. Ministry enda munhu anofunga anorizina. Haidi munhu anofunga kuda kungoba chete. Because ukada kutarisa kuti iye now akanga akuenda kunana Bikita Minerals auda 51% share. Iye kaSikwere akuenda kusugar growing giant yainzi Togad Huletiya auda 51% share ikoko. Akaenda kuRengo Mine aida 51% share. akaenda kuMalilango Trust aida 51% share yake iye, but ndiye munhu aileader mayouth. How are you going to empower the youth then, Mr. 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗂? And you are coming today to say you want to be president of Zimbabwe. You want to contest the 2023. You are just kungoya kuzobvongodza supu. Kuseva kwakaguta ndokwaroda kuya kuzoita chete. Andirona. Because kana uri mukristu anonamata, ngezvinoita isusu mapostori tinofamba nembiri yemudzimu unoera mweya muchena waMwari. God is ready to transform Zimbabwe. Imbomirai vanozviti mapostori for ED, imbomirai nonsense dziyadziya. Imbodzimirai nonsense dziyadziya. Because zvemapostori for ED, those are tried and tested strategies which never worked in our country. And the size of his house tells it all. It really tells it all. And so remember, we have tried a number of methods, hoping to liberate ourselves from this oppressive regime. Saka vanozviti mapostori kwa ED, imbomirai zvazve. Allow God to transform our country. Let God's will be done in Zimbabwe. I am telling you, 2023 is a promising year. It's a very promising year. And if ZANU-PF goes, believe me, Zimbabwe will be totally transformed. Muchashamisika, muchaita zvikuita maZambians. maZambians vari kubvunza kuti ko HH aivepi? Aivepi munhu? Ndikati maimbata HH muchimukwidza mumotokari muchinomuvharira kujeri. Musingazivi kuti muri kuvharira chipo chenyika yeZambia. Nezvi vari kufara maZambians, vari kuchema nemisodzi yekufara kuti hey, munhu aivepo, tikati maivharira chipo. Ande murikuona. Saka Zimbabwe muri nyika yakadiwa naMwari. God has given you abundant resources in your country, including Nelson Chamisa. If I look at Chamisa, I say, oh, this is a God-given boy to our country. He is a brilliant resource to our country. Look at Zambia. They were detaining and harassing a brilliant resource that God had given them. When they put in HH, everything changed. You have got Chamisa as a brilliant resource for Zimbabwe. And I've always said, could failure to put Chamisa in our country is we are avoiding God. We are avoiding to do the will of God. Satan anouya kudzimaidza vanhu monzi, hey, utora picture yepo wavhotera tuone. As bless God will never happen in Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans are not yet ready. I think they are ready now. Eustace. Because pawakanisendera audio chipenga, ndopandakatoona kuti Zimbabwe, maZimbabweans are ready. You are not an easy person to convince, Eustace. But wakanisendera audio, uchiona muono wandaonawo kuti mfano akaonawo. Andiona. That shows God is ready. The sad state of our country is leadership failure. Though the sad state of our country, that we've got leadership failure, we've got vanhu vakatadza kutonga nyika, vachiri kufunga kuti they can do miracles. And so elections are by the corner. What I'm encouraging, vanhu vari kutaura kuti vanhu ve-𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 pekai mabhegi muende muzodzoka ma-elections apera. Vanhu vekumbare unotora picture nefoni yako yotaradza kuti wavhotera papi. I am appealing to those people. I'm saying your time is up now. Because God is ready to transform Zimbabwe. Elections are by the corner 2023. Let the people of Zimbabwe vote in a free and fair environment. And let the ballots be counted fairly Don't interfere with this system. Don't intimidate people. Because mangwana unozoshaya pekuwanda. Mavideo aya mazuano kwane zviringazuva kana kwane zvimakamera, munhu wese ane kamera vari kutora mavideos vachisenda pa social media. Saka mangwana you will be asked kuti wada kuzama kuti chii apa. Remember when I started this presentation, I was talking about one man, one vote. To say kuti ndo zvakaenderwa kuhondo, zvine makuva. Ukaenda kuMozambique kune makuva evanhu varere mumasango asina makuva. Ukaenda muZimbabwe mune vanhu varere mumasango asina makuva. Vakafira nyika yedu, nyika yeZimbabwe. Kuti tite one man, one vote. Chirega kuda kukanganisa the values of 𝗓𝗓𝗃𝗃. Tikakunzwa wakutaura kumunhu ari kumbare kuti tora picture ballot paper rako undiratidze kuti wavhotera papi. You are against the values of the 𝗓𝗓𝗃𝗃. Vanhu vakafira musango havana kufira iwewe kuti udzoke uite reverse what they died for. Saka I am warning those idiots kuti the spirit of those who died in the bush fighting for one man, one vote, don't let their spirit turn kana mapfupa atenderera ari muguva. Because nezvamaakuita. The nomination court is sitting, ladies and gentlemen, musi wa 21 June unono. Inenge ichireceive ma-candidates, ma-presidential candidates, ma-parliamentary candidates, ma-local government candidates. Make sure kuti wakuno isa musi wa 23 after this nomination, makuno isa ma-ex enyu. Ma-ex enyu ngaaende pavanhu vamakasarudza. Sarudzai vanhu vanoziva zvavanoita munyika, kwete kusarudza munhu wekuti anokutaurira kuti unotora picture ipo wavhotera woundiratidza. My vote is my secret. You should never know where I vote. Saka, let these idiots be warned. Could let the people of Zimbabwe participate in a free and fair election. Let the ballot papers be counted fairly. And Mruona, we don't want a situation like the 2008 election, which is the most horrific, which resulted in at least 1,000 people killed, thousands more drastically brutalized and displaced. We don't want that in our country. This is 21st century. We should do our things in an educated manner in order that avana vakafunda maZimbabweans akadzidza. Zvekuti kana munhu akapinda muZimbabwe uchingotsika momo mhepo yaunofana kufema nepauchatsika zvofanira kuratidza kuti wapinda nyika ine vanhu vakafunda, vanhu vakadzidza. Endo zvikapinda muHarare nemasweji arimo wotanga wapinda kuSomalia kutokundwa neSomalia. So I'm appealing to the people of Zimbabwe that this is time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not be fooled. No, sana 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗃. Let's not be fooled. No, sana Emerson Mnangagwa. Those people, they don't have 𝗓𝗓𝗃𝗃 values at heart. They've never preached these values I am talking about here. That makes Zimbabwe a country yakauya nehondo. Zimbabwe inyika yakauya nehondo. Haina kuuya nekupinda mubhawa tichimwa doro tichitaura kuti ane tovhota. Inyika yakauya nehondo. Saka ma-values acho iwayo must be guarded jealously. Anyone anotaura kuti tora picture uya undiratidze pawavhotera, tell him kuti uri mhando yechimurenga. Andimuona? Because as I'm speaking, ladies and gentlemen, 𝗓𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 imhando yechimurenga. The gentleman's repentance can never win the hearts of the people of Zimbabwe. Can never win the hearts of the opposition people in our country. Cannot even win the hearts of those in ZANU-PF. So don't waste time. 𝗓𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 ari kuuya kuzodii. Andimuona? Because he might want to come and sanitize his sins. But ane zvitadzo zvakawanda murume uyo zvaakaitira vanhu veZimbabwe. Kubva 2000 kusvika nhasi mukanzwa zvakaitwa naKasukwere kunana Maundaru, you don't want to see that guy again. Andiri kuona? aingoapoindwa president amene kuti vaimudirei vamugabe. Andiri kuona because iye aibva aita inonzi praise sing kuna president kuti vabva vafunga kuti is a loyal cadre weZANU-PF. I'm glad ZANU-PF yakazozviona later kuti he is not loyal, this man. Not loyal to anyone. Andimono. Saka taakutaura kuti patasvika apa tikunzwei muchiti kasukwere. Ndoda kuti mushare video inoyi. Munyatso sit down and think deeply what I've said in this video. Andinoona. Because mungada kuona vanhu vave praise singing wagon avamugabe. Vanhu vache vava ndo vakakonzera sanctions. These were hardcore criminals. Zvakafanana ukada kutarisa kuti nhasi Obadiah Msindo uyo ainzi Obadiah Msindo, Reverend Msindo uyo, a self-proclaimed Reverend Msindo uyo, kuti anouya nhasi otaura kuti he wants to be president. Unotanga kufunga kuti this was a church leader who exulted in an effort to escape prosecution. Aiimba Mugabe to escape a prosecution of his crimes that he committed. He just wanted to enjoy immunity. Kuti uya asungwe because anofarira vamugabe. Andimona. And he aimed my presidential pardons. Vanhu vakaita sana Kasukwere, vana Obadiah Msindo vaiva, vane mhosva dzavakapara. Obadiah Msindo, a very good example. Remember in 2010, he was accused of raping a follower of his Destiny of Africa Church. He was never prosecuted because he was ZANU-PF. Arim praise singing wagon yamdara Mugabe. In March 4, 2011, Obadiah Msindo led a group of apostolic sect leaders I still remember Harare kwenzwa Harare chikupolu kwakaenda kweko achimba achiti vamugabe is a God given, declaring that nothing, not even elections, would remove him from power. Ndo vanhu vakaita kuti mudhara aite overstay. Kusvika mudhara azobva achita kunyadziswa nanambwa avo. Andiri kuona aitaura zvikanzi mudhara is a God given. He declared kuti hakuna chinobvisa vamugabe. He declared that nothing, not even elections, would remove Mudara from power. He claimed that Mudara was an angel in heaven, placed. He said an angel in heaven placed Mugabe as the president of the country. No Obadiah Msindo. Akarepa a maid mbakwako. Akanorepa 2010 musikana umwe aiuya kuchechi kwake yainzi Destiny of Africa here. Nyemosha dzake dzese izozizi haana kana mosha yakaprosecutwa Obadiah Msindo, because he was in the praise singing wagon of the president of the country. He was doing this because either presidential pardon, and he was never arrested. You understand what I mean? Look at the whole crew. Yaita wana praise singing here. Wana 𝗍𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗶. He was in the praise singing wagon. Akatombosungwa Philip achinzi atengesa information eZANU-PF, haana kwakaenda akaburiswa. Andimuri kuona. Because vane mhosva dzavanenge vakapara, vanenge vasingade kusungwa. Pane rimwe zidhara risinganyarere kuendesa mapostori kujeri, rimwe zidhara rainzi Bishop Ndanga, Johannes Ndanga, of the Apostolic Christian Council of Zimbabwe. He announced that as a church leader, he stood guided by 1934 prophets by Baba Johan that Mugabe would die in power. Mudaidze Ndanga Johannes uyo kuti chiuya kugara apa tunzu. Urutaura kuti mweya mutsvene wakadzika pana Baba Johan 1934. Ukataura kuti vamugabe vachafa vachitonga. Izvo vamugabe vakafa vasichade kunzwa chinonzi ZANU-PF. Saka urutaura Baba Johan wakanyepa here, mweya mutsvene wakanyepa here uchidzika kubva kudenga kuya panyika uzotaura kuti murume achafa achitonga. Handimurunzwa nyaya tiri kutaura kuti ngatisateererei vanhu ava. havana zvavanoziva. Ngatireyi izwi raMwari rinobva kumusoro kudenga. Idzi nyama idzi hazvina vana ndanga uya handifungi kuti mupostori kana anoziva chinonzi chipostori chii. Handii muri kuona? Saka ukada kuona kuti zvinezvi mapfe arongonzi 𝗖𝗁𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗃 munanga gwangoti achingopinda chete mupower akabva atoita worse than Mugabe. People thought he gonna be better than President Mugabe since akaona zvakatadzwa nguva yapresident. It is now quite interesting if you look at ZANU-PF. Those praise singing choruses, they took 10 now. They are now singing the ascendance of Mnangagwa into power. Mudhara Mugabe waimba uya vachimuti as God's prophet who had been sent to liberate Zimbabwe from colonialism and deliver them from poverty. They are now demonizing that Mudhara. Takazonzwana pamuchinguri wakutaura kunyange nemasanctions ndi Mugabe. They were now demonizing that old man. And these praise singers, praise singing wagon, these are criminals. Vafana nawo wenje musango vakaita kurepa kamunin'ina kemukadzi kamwana kadika ne10 years. But because praise singing wagona idi Mnangagwa avaende kujeri. Vana Musindo vakarepa havana kuenda kujeri. Vana baba Johannes Ntanga chindara chendebvu chai chakarepa uko achina kuenda kujeri. Wada utasa vese wanda praise singing wagoniwa vanenge vane mhosva dzavanenge vachihwanda vachitiza. Andiona, instead Mnangagwa was elevated. If you look at his praise singing wagon, it elevated Mnangagwa as a biblical prophet sent by God on a mission to extricate Zimbabwe from the oppression, poverty associated with the Mugabe's 37-year rule. They are demonizing Mugabe now. They are saying Mnangagwa akatumwa naMwari kuti auya kuburitse kubva mumatope. But these are the same people yesterday vaiti Mugabe was a God-given given. Especially vanakasukwera no vaiti Mugabe is a God-given because he was God-given to him. Because if you look at him, Mugabe used to just appoint him as minister. Achipinda achita ZANU-PF national commisa, something that must be repaid by the foolish praise singing such as God-given, the only second son of God. This is what they said. Vanhu vese vakutuka Mugabe ndo vaimira vana Mnangagwa vachiti God-given, the only second son of God. Vana Mnangagwa ndo vaidaro. Yes, even Mnangagwa is a rapist. Andiona vana vaimira vana Mnangagwa vachiti hanzi Mugabe hanzi Mwari vagara pamumvuri wakapfeka ngowani yawo. Zvikanzi Mugabe is the most obedient son waMwari. This all nonsense to say because they were hiding. They were like preventing arrest, preventing prosecution. Mwana weSusan Mutama akataura kuti hapana asingazivi nyaya dzekurepwa kwandayaita. Vana Muzenda ndakavataurira. Nyaya yakasvika kuna vaMugabe vakasvika nyaya yekurepwa kwangu naMudhara. But no action was taken. In a similar way yaitaurwa naJephthah Dube. Zvika nyaya yangu iofisa ndakaisvitsa kana kuna president vaiziva vaMugabe. Kundairepwa naMudhara anonzi Banana. Vana Muzenda ndakavataurira vana action yavakatora. Svika nhasi ndaakufira mujeri. Andimugona. Saka nyaya dzatiri kutaura, ladies and gentlemen, ndedzekuti we heard a lot of these stories. Today Mugabe akunzi is a biblical Judas Iscariot who caused untold suffering for citizens and isolation from the international community. This is what they are saying to Mugabe. Instead of saying that Vanakasukwere, these are the people who caused untold suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. And everyone. So we hear so many ZANU-PF people now, whether they are artists or whether they are people in political parties who address ZANU-PF political figure with religious titles, sometimes even giving them titles of God's assistant to God. Zvafana Mnangagwa ukanzwa vachitaura vachiti akunamatiwa. Ndakanzwa umwe achiverenga vhesi hanzi Genesis what vhesi chii achiti hanzi Mnangagwa chii kutora kubvisa pakanzi Judha kuisa Sara Mnangagwa ipapo. Ndikati hey, that's blasphemy. That idolatry must never be tolerated. If you are a Christian, stay away. Usabata Bible riya kana uchiziva kuti une political intention, you want to politicize the Bible ramwari. Usabata. Because shamu yake kana yorova mangwana usazochema. Because that level of blasphemy is very scary. Inini chaya kana kabata Bible amukumuzaitaura kuti chamisa ndiMoses kana chamisa akatumwa naMwari. Handitaure kudaro. Because I don't want to be seen in a level of blasphemy. You know, so that mangwana nizokuvara neshamu yaMwari. Chandoziva nchekuti Mwari vakada chamisa. Musaka achiti God is in it. Achiverenga Bible. He will never tell you that he is Elijah. He will never tell you that he is John the Baptist. He will never tell you that he is Moses. No. This is one thing I like about President Nelson Chamisa. He doesn't want to be read in the book of blasphemous people, where the likes of E.D. Mnangagwa are. Because ndakanzwa umwe achiti Gushungo, you are an angel. Ronzani zimfana rea rine maso akamheya. Ronzani rea iri zifana rekuzo mbovharwa 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 rikapukutwa nemasoja zvakaipa. Rainzi chipanga zimfana rainzi chipanga rea. Ndakanzwa richitaura kuti hanzi you are an angel kuri Baba Mugabe. Zvikanzi Amai Mugabe, you are a wife of an angel. Zvikanzi so when people enter heaven and when it is Zimbabwe's turn, you will be seated with the you will be seated there with the ZANU-PF Secretary for Administration Ignatius Chombo, having names while you will be vetting those whom you know. Mugabe was wanted not to accept that. Such flattering from these disrespectful, blasphemous members. Rainzi chipanga zifana reku meya meso reare. Zifana reku ruhane buka rea. Ndakanzwa richitaura kuti hanzi Mugabe is an angel. Amai Mugabe muri mukadzi weNgirozi. Zvikanzi Mugabe anenge aripo pasuo guru pana Peter anenge ane zibhuku kana maZimbabweans vakupinda ndiye anenge achipinza vanhu kudenga. Ndofunga makambozvinzwa izvozvo. Nhasi zifana rera kuti idhife iroriya. Andimona. Saka ndiri kutaura kuvana veZimbabwe kuti masvika extend not to accept nonsense. The extent you are now, God want to save Zimbabwe. Don't entertain one vakaita sana Kasukuera. They are irrelevant when it comes to governance of our country. They have been in government kubva ari mwana mudiki 29 kusvika zvino zvakuma 50 something. Achingokunyeperai ndichaunza development. Nhasi akuda kuuya achiti ndivhotere ndite president. Dhirihora vakoma nhasika dhirihora rembanje vanogara mudhiriho vakomana vanogara mudhiriho dhirihora rembanje vanogara mudhiriho musatambe navo vanogara mudhiriho dhirihora rembanje vanogara mudhiriho dhirihora vakomana. Elton Chito zviri kufamba here, please kanda kanhamba kanoti vakomana vezvibhibho matiurayisa. Asi vakomana vezvibhibho matiurayisa, vakomana vezvibhibho matiurayisa, mwenda mberi ndaurawa nemukondombera. Akarequestwa namukoma Elton ikaka hanzi mwenda mberi ndaura waini mwenda mberi ndoura wane mukondombera mwenda mberi ndoura wane mukondombera rindoura wane mukondombera vakomana vezvibhibho matiurayisa komana vezvibhibho matiurayisa vakomana vezvijini matiurayisa vezvijini matiurayisa mwenda mberi ndaura wane mukondombera mwenda mberi ndaura wane mukondombera ndamberi ndaura waini mwenda mberi ndaura wane mukondombera mberi ndaura wane mukondombera mwenda mberi ndaura wane mukondombera vasikana vezvijini matiurayisa vezvijini matiurayisa vakomana vezvibhibho matiurayisa ngoma yalutoto mafunga roadrunner mwenda mberi ndaura wane mukondombera good night murara zvakanaka kuda Zimbabwe nhasi ndataurisa naye almost 4 hours are not acceptable pandaida kungoti ndingokava topic 𝗓𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗏 pane munhu akairequest akati Shepherd mbotaurira saka pane nyaya ameno kana kune vanofunga kuti mawana savior in 𝗓𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗏 I don't know, but to me it's a no.